A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Matt Williams got a brilliant start from the third row of the grid.
He's gone, he's hit him, he's straight off at the chase.
A half-second lead. Oh, with the simmering car in the background.
He has it. Oh, he's round on the last lap.
There's a massive, massive accident.
Next to the inside, what a move, what a move.
Very good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Circuit de la Sarthe, or the Le Mans Endurance Circuit as it's more famously known, about 130 kilometres to the southwest of Paris. It serves as the third and final round in our European leg of the GT3 World Challenge, and it's a venture into the unknown. A number of these drivers have not been here before, but they all want to win it. And it serves as a little bit of a curtain raiser, I guess you can call it, to the Le Mans 6 Hour that runs in the middle of this year. But we'll get to a bit more on that a bit later on in the night. My name is Nether, as always, bringing you the GT3 coverage. And joining me in the box as usual for GT3, it's Bagsy. How are you, mate?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks. Looking forward to Le Mans. It's the big daddy track, essentially, of endurance racing. It's the one that everyone wants to win, and we'll see people here probably the ones who are going to have a leg up in the 6 Hour later this year.
Well, you're certainly right. I mean, the Le Mans 6 Hour one is where it's going to be at with the driver swaps and all, but no driver swaps tonight. It's 2 hours of endurance, but a little look at the calendar as to how and when we got here. So there it is. The third one on the list there is where we're at tonight, and the little star next door to it denotes that this is a 2 hour event. So it's a little bit longer than usual, and you can see there on the calendar that the 3rd, 6th and 9th events are all 2 hour events. So if we now have a quick sticky beak at the drivers' points through the first 2 rounds, it's quite tight at the top, Bagsy. Foley and Wedding, despite the fact that Foley hasn't won a race, he's got 2 second place finishes to his name, and he's at the top, but it is very, very tight. The 2 men that have wins to their name, Wedding and Nangle, not far behind.
Yeah, well, you've got to have consistency in endurance racing, so it's very easy. We've seen Wedding in previous seasons have wins and only losses, so it means that he's close to the front. So yeah, all about that consistency. And you see people like Osrob, Brock Harvey, Dixon have only had either one race or they've done a couple of races with the DNF, and that's why they're so much further back. Yeah,
now just going back on the points from last week as well, we actually have there's been a little bit of a change with the points. They have been combined, similar format to the way that Super 2's doing the points. It was becoming a little bit difficult to keep tabs on precisely what was going on, so that's why you see on your screen there a combination of the Pro and the Pro-Am points. They've been awarded based on your position of finish in each race, and also they have taken the 6th place finish that was awarded to Heath Dixon for his DNF in the first race of Barcelona has now been taken out of the equation. There was an error in the calculation there, so that is the correct order. And you'll also note Corey Ott has a star next door to the Audi R8 LMS, and that is because he's a car that he borrowed, quote unquote, for the last round. He's actually scheduled to run the Lexus in the GT3 comp, but he'll be sitting out tonight. We'll get to a bit more on that in just a moment. But basically, you called this the Big Daddy track, and you're not wrong. It is a huge track, 13.6 Ks long, 38 turns, and based on the numbers that we're running, we're going to get somewhere around the 27 to 30 laps tonight. So we're getting close to 4-minute laps. I mean, the best times we're seeing at the moment are 3:57 dead, but the race pace seems to be around the 4-minute mark. You get a bit of respite down some of these straights, but it doesn't last very long. There's still quite a number of technical corners here.
Yeah, the Mulsanne straight obviously punctuated by 2 chicanes, but yeah, sort of that's your only relief. The rest of the track is a fair few corners and some famous ones like the Porsche curves and such. Also to note, if a safety car does come out, it will chew up a lot of time and will mean people will be able to save a lot of fuel because it's such a long lap. Safety car could take a very long time to get round, especially if it does 2, 3, 4 laps, it's a lot of time taken up.
No, you're certainly right. That it will be a big killer if the safety car comes out. Not only will it kill the race, but it'll almost effectively triple the lap time, or very close to triple the lap time in terms of how fast the safety car actually goes. But that being said, it will allow a number of drivers that may be well off the back of the pack at a circuit like this and have to make several stops to get back onto the back of the pack or back onto the back of the train before the restart takes effect. So a number of strategies, I guess, set to play out throughout tonight. We'll go over and have a look and see what is happening at the moment. We're just finishing up the practice session. The man at the top of the timesheets was Ozrob with a 3:57 dead, and no surprise given the size of this circuit that a number of drivers have already taken to the circuit quite early. They've only got 15 minutes, and there's a bit of discussion over the practice sessions across the weekend as to how this might pan out, whether drivers would go out, fuel for several laps, and then get on it, or whether they'd break it up and do an out lap, flying lap, and then quit, and then another out lap, another flying lap. But the big problem you're going to have is that you don't want to be getting to the line with about a minute or 2 minutes to go, especially on a 4-minute lap, because the server will time out at a certain point in time once the checkered flag goes, and you may not make it back in enough time to set your last flying lap if you start it too close to the conclusion of the session.
Yeah, you've got to really, the best way to do it would be to just fuel up for, 4 laps is really the maximum you're going to be able to do. Well, yeah, 4 laps is the maximum you're going to be able to do and be able to just come in before the server times out. So, yeah, fueling up for 4 laps would be the best strategy, and you're keeping your tyres warm, you're getting your eye in on the track, and just keep firing those laps in and see which one sticks.
The only man who's not currently on the circuit at the moment is Greg Nangle, so last round's winner is currently sat up in the garage. There he is, we just can't get to him, but the man that's on track furthest up the circuit at the moment is Will Devonish in this Lamborghini. Bit of a speedster, this Lamborghini. Second on the practice timesheets, was certainly looking threatening at Monza, certainly looked the goods at Barcelona, but didn't come home with a good haul of points at Monza, and also disconnected at Barcelona. And one would argue that he's probably due a win. Same with Matt Williams. He's had similar fate struck him in his Mercedes, and if not for the disconnect very, very early at Monza, he would have been right up there as well. So could have very quickly changed the face of this championship. Even though it's early days, there's still plenty of time for both those drivers, Devonish and Williams, to get themselves back into contention.
Yeah, it certainly is, and you never know who the disconnection gremlins are going to hit next. We know that, as you said, Devonish and Matt Williams have both had issues with that. With the two Taras, Greg and Noah Tara, have both had that issue in both races so far, unfortunately, both in Barcelona and Monza. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they stay away today in this longer event, because we are already down on people as it is in this field tonight.
Yeah, well, the number of guys have gone, obviously, to the Formula 1 Grand Prix in Melbourne this weekend as well, so I believe that's why we're missing Brenton Foley at the moment. So the man who leads the championship, potentially not going to be leading the championship after tonight's proceedings, but he's absent tonight. And a number of the drivers that were involved in a couple of indiscretions last round 2 weeks ago at Monza have also been given the night off by the Driving Standards Observer. So Brock Harvey, one of the men who's not here tonight, he has been given the night off after playing a part in triggering the second safety car following the safety car restart from the first safety car. We didn't quite catch a lot of it on the camera, but he has been given the night off, as too has Lewis Wedding, for unseating Jamie Snow in the process of the safety car restart. He was actually anticipating Snow to go a lot earlier than what he did, and consequently ran into the back of him. And then poor Jamie was clouted again by Corey Ott in the third and final safety car period. It's actually under safety car period between the two Lesmo corners, and consequently Ott's also been given the night off as well. So down on 3 drivers by virtue of punishment, and won by absenteeism. So we've only got 11 drivers at the moment. So we're hoping that we'll get a decent night's racing. We're just watching Devonish negotiate the Tetra Rouge section of the course, and now he's on to the Mulsanne Straight. But the top 4 or 5 guys were not separated by very much. The second sort of covered the top 5 or 6 drivers, so we're hoping that they will give us a decent showing tonight. And a couple of those drivers that were up the pointy end need a win or are due a win.
Yeah, certainly are. It's interesting that they've definitely clamped down after Monza, but we saw Glenn Miles turf someone at the start of Barcelona, and he was still back racing the next race. So it's interesting as to what has been and hasn't been enforced. But we'll move on from that. We'll have to deal with less people tonight, unfortunately. But yeah, Devonish 108 through the first sector there.
Yes, so in between the 2 chicanes on the Mulsanne Straight, so coming down to the Fleury Andrews chicane. There it is, you can see it in the foreground there. Slightly different version of the Le Mans track being run tonight. It's a version probably from around the 2000, the year 2000. You'll see that there's a little bit of a different section through the S's, the open to the lap. The hill that Devonish is approaching right now actually does not exist anymore. This hill was actually the scene of one of Mark Webber's 2 accidents in the 1999 Le Mans 24-hour race weekend. And as a result of that, the French authorities actually took that hill out and reprofiled the whole entire road, so it's actually dead straight. The accident he had was in the warm-up session. He was driving the Mercedes CLM, I think it was, back in the day, and all 3 of those cars ended up, or 2 of them ended up on the side of the road after flipping several times, and the third one was consequently withdrawn during the race.
Yeah, it's a mildly unsafe car and a mildly unsafe hill. It's probably a good thing it's gone. Good for spectating in general, because you no longer have a giant hill blocking your view of the straight. And obviously for the safety reasons outlined, because if you've seen the footage of Webber's crash, it was quite spectacular. Actually, was it? I don't think there was footage of Webber's crash. Was it the other car that was footage of, wasn't it?
Yeah, correct. So it was Dumbreck who was the one that had the accident for the second time. Webber's one was caught during the warm-up, but Webber had one during qualifying. He had one in the same car during the warm-up, and then another one of the cars ended up having the crash during the race. Actually, in the same spot where Webber had his qualifying accident. So it's a bit of an unusual thing for, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, but then fool you 3 times, we'll just pack up and go home sort of thing.
Yeah, certainly. Devonish he's gone through the second sector.
Yep, he's just finishing off the Porsche curves.
Not the fastest though. He was a 10th slower than Jamie Snow, but his first sector was almost a second faster than Snow. So Devonish on track to put in the best time as he comes through the final set of curves.
Yep, so he's come through the
Jamie
Porsche.
Snow is too far behind him.
Through the forward chicane there. Now, also important to note that the start-finish line is a lot further forward than what it normally is. It would have been right back there at the back of the grid spot, but the start-finish line is right here. So Devonish sets a 3:53.9, so that's very, very quick. Much quicker, about 4 seconds quicker than what we'd seen throughout the race session. So we might be getting, or throughout the practice session, we might be on for some slightly better times. Let's wait for the times to come in. Snow's 1.6 further back. Brennan Ross 3.1 further back of Devonish's time. The only 3 men to set a time so far. Who's the next man that's going to come across this line? It looks like it's probably going to be
Noah Tara and Heath Dixon.
Noah Tara and Heath Dixon. So here's Heath Dixon and Noah Tara. And some of the cameras are a little bit strange here as well. So we picked them up, finally. Dixon sets a 57.9. Noah Tara slightly longer, 4:09.4. Ozrob will be the next one down to the line, so he's about to tackle the forward chicane now. There's the pit lane entrance off to the right. Ozrob was right up there during the practice session as well in this 555 BMW. Now the drive to the line. You want to try and make this drive as straight as you can, but he's going to set it around about a 3:57, I think. Yeah, it's a 57.3, so more or less on his race pace, the sort of times that we were seeing. So about 3/10 off what he managed to accomplish in practice, but still 5 minutes and change on the board.
Will Devonish going faster again, as is Jamie Snow, but Devonish still has about a second over Snow in the first sector.
Heath Dixon now and Noah Tara both in the pits at present, so either
Yeah,
happy
I
to
think
do...
they'll get another lap.
No, they won't get... If they're in the pits now, they're not going to get another run at it. They'll need, you know, the better part of 4 minutes to get around. They're not going to get out for another run, so their job is done, but it's a very, very long race, so... And plenty of slipstreaming, I guess, will be available. A number of other drivers pressing on. As we look back to Greg Nangle is out on track somewhere. We're just trying to see if we can pick him up. There he is. So he's actually just across the line and he's actually gone up to P2. Men that are yet to set a time. So Glenn Miles just coming down through Indianapolis corner at the moment and now down to Arnage following Will Devonish. Devonish actually off the road there.
Matt Williams has set a very fast middle sector, almost identical to Will Devanish's time.
Oh, he won't be setting a sector like that. He's gone straight off. He's gone straight off through the Porsche curves and absolutely destroyed the front end of that car. We're only catching the back end of that, so let's just see if we can pick up a little bit more about what happened. He was definitely setting some quick sector times.
Devonish has set another lap.
Understeered wide. So understeered very, very wide. Way too much speed. And then, yeah, straight on. In actual fact, lost the hit them with that much force. Lost the front left wheel as well. So not a good start.
Devonish has parked it after setting a new best lap for himself.
Yep, so 3:53.930 still for Will Devonish.
Elected not to go for a third lap.
No, and Steve Bolger down to the Mulsanne corner, so he hasn't yet set a lap either, but this is probably going to
Snow's
be
the only one who can bring it to him as he's coming towards the line now.
So we're actually pretty close. I think it's probably going to be about 3:54, just judging by the numbers. Yeah, it's a hot... Oh, actual fact, it didn't register a lap that time, so been pinged for a track violation, Jamie Snow. So he's probably still got...
I think that was in the final chicane as well.
He's got the headlights on now, so he's going again. Who else is on the...
Very fine.
Osrob. Now coming down to the Porsche curves. How's he been looking? So he's got an average first sector this time around at 109.5, 130.3 in the middle sector, so not setting the timing screens the light. In actual fact, had Jamie Snow been able to put that lap together, he would have been right up, would have been a 3:54, probably would have been good enough to move him up onto third place on the grid because he's purple through the middle sector. And Osrob now on his way to tackle the Ford chicane. Plenty of curb on the way in.
The curb there.
Yeah, very, very aggressive use of the initial curbs. Alright. Is he going to set a time, or has he been penalised for a track cut? His best lap was a 3:57.3. It's going to be a 55.5, and it moves him up one spot. Actually, just puts him ahead of Jamie Snow provisionally at the moment, and that's Osrob done. In actual fact, Jamie Snow aborted. So Snow coming out of the pits now, so he probably will not get around in enough. He definitely won't get around in enough time to have another go.
Bolger's about to set a time.
So Steve Bolger comes down to the line, and his time was a 3:57.9. So not a bad effort for Steve Bolger. Glenn Miles is the only man that can improve his time. With a minute left to go, he's on his way down to the Mulsanne corner.
About to come across the line as well.
And Nangle coming up to the line. 3:53 is the target. 3:53.9.
Oh, 400
very,
off.
very, very close. He's not going to get enough time to get another lap in though. He's got him to the start-finish line before the checker drops, but won't have enough time to get around. But really threatened heavily and late This man made no secret of it after his win at Monza last round, that he definitely wanted to win this one. He's done himself every possible chance by putting himself on the front row.
Last person left, well, there's actually a few people left on track. Glenn Miles is coming round through the second split now, so he should have enough time to get back.
Yeah,
Jamie Snow's going to be a bit iffy. He's only coming through the first sector now with time about to expire, so
he actually aborted.
Not sure if he's going to make it round.
No, he aborted and came back to the pits and then decided to come back out again, so he actually hasn't registered a lap. He won't be able to register any further laps.
Oh, it's interesting. He's got a time running at the moment.
Oh, we'll see what happens with that. I don't think he'll be able to register. The only man I think that can possibly improve will be Glenn Miles. I mean, he is toward the back at the moment. But he's not that far behind Noah Tara. In actual fact, we seem to have lost one of the drivers from the server at the moment. Just trying to work out who it is. Actually, Greg Tara has vanished from our screen as well. We did have 11, now down to 10, so you have to wait till the warm-up. Miles is very wide at the final section of the Porsche curves. That's the end of that chapter. He is done. So no further improvement for the Playboy Racing Cadillac. It is done and dusted. So,
actually, given the location of the start-finish straight, does that mean that laps will count because you leave the pit lane and then go over the start-finish line? So that might be why Jamie Snow has a time ticking along at the moment.
It's potentially, but very possible that is the reason why. But the checkered flag has been shown. Snow on his way.
About a minute ago now.
Yeah, so Snow's just down at the Arnage and the Indianapolis and Arnage corners now, and Nangle is quite the only other man on the circuit. He's actually coming down toward those same corners.
That's
now.
A purple middle sector from Snow. He's 6/10 down. That's something you can make up because this track is so long. The splits are almost the length of a regular circuit.
Well, maybe you're right here, Bagsy. Maybe given the fact that he has come out of the pit lane with where the start-finish line is, maybe it has given him the opportunity to have another go. So we'll see if he gets to the line in time.
He would have been compromised in terms of speed across the line, but if he's certainly made it up in the middle sector. And he set himself a personal best first sector anyway, despite potentially being slower. Oh, he's very wide there, but exactly the right amount of track.
Yeah, very close to the grass there. Now only a couple more turns to go. A left over right and a left over right for the forward chicanes.
See if the time counts.
Going to our flyby cam. Down the pit straight. And this is the bit that we hate, that it goes like that. 3:53 is the benchmark. He's not going to get it, but he goes up to third. So not a bad effort.
Well done from Jamie Snow.
So you're absolutely right, Bagsy. Spot on with the call. Where the start-finish line is, gave him the advantage there. Now Nangle was the only other man. He's actually coming down to the line now, out of the final corner. Ooh, got a little bit wiggly. Trying to apply the power. Chasing the Lamborghini's time. It's ticking away. I don't think he's going to get there. No, he doesn't. So he stays second. Well, after that, we end up with Devonish on the pole and Nangle second. So both those gentlemen would be rather pleased. Yeah, both those gentlemen would be rather pleased with those times, actually. But it's a little bit, some of those times are much quicker than we expected. So 3:53 when the race pace is expected to be around about the 3:57 to 4 minute mark, depending on how they treat the tyres and the fuel. But on the whole, not a bad qualifying session, I guess, for the 10 or so drivers that took part. There'll be obviously one more, hopefully, to get back in the name of Greg Tara. And now we've got 10 minutes ahead to wait until the checkered flag is ready to drop. And I'd imagine this is going to also be quite a large outlap as well. So there'll be plenty of fuel saving going on the warm-up lap. On the warm-up lap, on the parade lap.
Yeah, it's going to be a unique situation this warm up in that there probably won't be a single warm up lap actually completed because once the driver's briefing is completed, there might not be enough time.
No, you're absolutely right. I don't think that there will be very much warm-up time at all, as we're just sitting here waiting and watching the front straight. We expect that we won't see very many cars for a while, but the only thing I couldn't imagine is if they do get out with, say, 5 minutes remaining or that they'll probably practice a pit in just to make sure they're happy with driving in and entering the pits and stopping. And then obviously a pit exit to make sure they're happy with coming out and merging into the fast lane and also into the racing line. So that's about all I can expect will probably happen in the next 10 minutes. But it's 10 minutes that we have to wait to see what's going on. Now, we alluded to the AMS Oz Le Mans 6-hour event. So that 6-hour event is actually scheduled to take place on the 23rd of June. Now, we're not 100% sure what the time and the particulars are going to be in terms of what time of the day that it runs, but if it's anything like previously, it will more than likely run in an afternoon or early afternoon time slot. But it's actually, believe it or not, the way the timing is worked out with this particular event, it will be the weekend after the final GT3 World Challenge round. So the final race for GT3 World Challenge is at Road America on the 16th of June, as you saw on the calendar a little bit earlier, which is a 2-hour event, and then the weekend immediately after that is going to be the Le Mans 6-hour. Now, we're not also 100% sure, but it seems highly likely that will also be a class driven race, so there will be GT and there will be LMP as well. So you will have to pair up with somebody if you are interested in racing in that event, and I'm sure sign up for that event will go out in the next couple of weeks to garner some interest. But definitely looking ahead to a little bit more of another special event. So we've already had the Bathurst 3-hour won by Brent Foley and Zurus in an ARW PBF Bentley Continental, same sort of look as what Heath Dixon runs. And then we've also got the Indy 500, which comes up toward the end of May, and then the other special event is the Le Mans 6-hour. They're the three that are scheduled into the slate at the moment. I guess they'll probably
Sorry, because we just had Philip Boak arrive in the server. So
right. That's good to see. So now
Race Engineering
finally
will be entering a car.
Finally, so as you might recall, actually, Bagsy, that car was driven by Ben Rhodes or Rhodey at the previous event in Monza, and it was somewhat off the pace.
Moderate effect.
To moderate effect will be. He will be watching the stream. Hello, Rhodey. Taking part hopefully in Super 2 this week on Thursday for sprint races at the Albert Park Grand Prix circuit. There's a few drivers, I guess, looks like they're leaving and then coming back just to make sure that everything has been set properly. As Ozrob has just left now, so we expect that he'll be back. But yeah, it's just getting back to the special events. So obviously the three that are on the slate at the moment, or have been on the slate: the Bathurst 3-hour, Indy 500, Le Mans 6-hour. I dare say there probably will be a Bathurst weekend, or the weekend after Bathurst. There'll probably be something rather special organised. Nothing or no word on that just yet, but a lot of events toward the back half of the season haven't quite been worked out yet, especially with GT winding up about mid-year. So as we said, the last race on the 16th of June and then the 23rd of June with the 6-hour Le Mans. That'll take us right up, or pretty much a full calendar right up into the end of June, and then we'll be looking at other options to fill in the rest of the season and the year. Just from our position, we can see that somebody has decided to poke their head or their car out of the garage. I'm not quite sure who that is.
I think it's Philip Boak.
Looks like it might be Philip Boak. Actually, it's a dark coloured car with 5 minutes and change left on the clock. Well, Bags, we probably need to have a bit of a discussion around how we think this race is going to unfold tonight, because there's definitely a number of drivers that are very, very closely matched. Well, Devonish and Nangle, that goes without saying. Snow's not far out of this argument as well. And then we've got people like Matt Williams, who have been quite vocal in saying that it should have been right up there with the level of reliability or lack of luck on reliability that they've had as well. We saw it the other night where you can drive from the back of the field to the front of the field with Mitchell Hathaway in the Super 2, but how do you think this one's going to unfold? Do you think that a number of the guys will just clear off, or do you think we're going to get a little bit of action a bit further down the field, maybe a bit of a surprise? You're deep in thought there, Bagsy, so I'm taking that you're still trying to process all this. I think we may have lost Bagsy temporarily here. Something seems to be going on. But now we're starting to get a number of drivers taking to the track. As the drivers' briefing has concluded. So we're looking at the SLS of Matt Williams right now. As he comes down onto the Mulsanne straight. It actually looks like he's doing a low fuel run as well, because you can see the little fuel icon on the left-hand side there, just above his name. That'll signify that he hasn't got a great deal of fuel on board. Well, that's a bit creative, Matt. I take it that that's probably in response to trying to get around in a quick enough time that he either wants to do a pit stop or he wants to practice something in particular on the track. But we are watching you, Matt. Yes, just alluding to previous attempts to contact Bagsy. He's having some issues with his voice communications at the moment, so we're not 100% sure why that is the case. We'll hopefully have him back rather shortly. What we're going to attempt to do is step away very quickly from the session just to see if we can help our colleague just resume getting himself up and running. Okay.
Gotcha.
Alright, so we have managed to successfully reconnect with Bagsy for the audio, so we're having a little bit of a drama with Discord, but unfortunately what it also means is that we're going to have to get ourselves back into the server. So if you just bear with us for just a moment, we are going to sort ourselves out with getting back into AMS. Now this has been a little bit of an issue with this particular circuit, that when we do quickly have to tab out to sort out a few things, it does give us a little bit of an issue getting back in. So if you bear with us just a moment. Now before we lost our voice chat temporarily, Bagsy, I was just in the process of asking you for some feedback on how you think tonight's proceedings were going to run. given that the likes of Devonish and Nangle were up the very top end of the field. We couldn't rule Jamie Snow out of the equation as well, and someone like Matt Williams being at the back of the grid has been very vocal during the week about he should have been right up there in terms of challenging for wins or challenging for good haul of points, yet he's suffered some issues that have put him right down the back of the point standings, but he's certainly not out of contention yet.
Yeah, certainly not. And the thing is, really, anyone could snag a win here because it's such a long race and it's a circuit where if you lose concentration for even a tiny bit, unless you happen to be on Mulsanne, you're going to be in the wars, to say the least. So you've got to say Devonish is the one who you think will win based on his previous performances so far, apart from disconnections, obviously. But, we've had Brenton Foley and Philip Boak both join not long. They haven't properly practiced very much, but give it a bit of time and a safety car potentially, they could be right back in and up there. But that's Lamborghini has a lot of straight line speed. So I think even though Nangle is there or thereabouts with Devonish, I don't think he's going to get that Lamborghini for pace.
No, you're certainly right. Well, it's good to see Brenton Foley and Philip Boak get in at short notice to make up some of the numbers as well. We were originally scheduled to have about 11 drivers in. Looks like we're up to about 13 now, which is good. And it's also good to see that the pace car at the head of the field is no longer an ARW Bentley Continental. They have fixed that over the in between rounds 2 and 3. There was a little mistake that was made with the SRS file, and hence it looked like another Heath Dixon car was leading the field. But now it is a Camaro HSV Camaro safety car that we commonly see in most of the AMS Oz races. There's a few drivers really lighting it up off the starting grid here. Now we're going to have a fair bit of time to get through the grid here as the formation lap continues through the first couple of corners here. So Will Devonish, the Belong Lamborghini, Willop Race Engineering, is on the pole. He was up the front end as well at Barcelona, suffered a disconnect and didn't get the full bank of points we probably expected him to with the amount of straight line speed that Lamborghini has at Monza. But don't rule this man out of championship contention yet either, especially with only 2 races on the board, or 2 races gone we should say. There's still plenty of points on offer, which means with 25 points available for a win, you're certainly looking at 175 points, still maximum on the table between now and the end of the season. Greg Nangle for FCR Motorsport Team Scrouse in the SLS AMG, so he's out of P2. The man who won the last round at Monza currently sits 3rd overall in the point standings with 36 points. He's got plenty of endurance racing experience under his belt, including the WEC title in LMP2 class last year in that epic Albert Park finale. We get to Jamie Snow. He's in the first of the Mercedes AMGs, an actual all Mercedes AMG second row of the grid. So Jamie Snow for FCR Motorsport. You'll see that there's a slight difference in the liveries between all 3 of those AMGs. You can see there Snow's got a darker side to his on his doors, or a darker emblem logo on the doors. The other man is alongside him out of P4 for FCR Motorsport is Brennan Ross. And Brennan Ross being the leader in Pro-Am for the moment. He's got the Penrite branding on the doors of the car, so that's the easy way to identify him there. Then we get down to P5, which is Ozrob. So Ozrob was the practice leader at the end of free practice before qualifying, and fair to say he's probably a little bit disappointed with where he is on the grid at the moment. Didn't have the best of runs at Monza, wasn't too bad at Barcelona, but be interesting to see how he goes tonight, given that BMW definitely has a little bit of straight line speed. It's probably a good all-rounder, that car, I would say. And out of P6 is the second of the Lamborghinis, Steve Bolger, also Pro-Am contender, directly behind his Pro-Am compatriot in Brendan Ross on the grid here. So he's in the second of the Lamborghinis, the red one there, for FG Racing. Bagsy, let's have a look at P7 back.
Yeah, we've got Heath Dixon sporting the ARW Bentley with its wide length and width. It's a very wide car, really. They've you can see where the exhaust is on the side there is actually the length of a normal car, but the Bentley, they just keep on going and going.
They certainly do.
He'll be hoping for some drive aids. It's not really on the pace of the front runners, but this is a race where you might not have to be on the pace, you just have to be there at the end. And he'll be very unhappy that he was in Barcelona. We were talking about how he might have the points or how he might not have the points. And he did have the points for a bit, but now he does not, so he'll be disappointed at that. Noah Turra in the Lone Wolf Cubs team. He and Greg Turra have both had disconnects in the last 2 races, which is very unfortunate, and a bit of lag that was apparently affecting other drivers too. So hopefully we can pray for some stable internet connections. Glenn Miles, who did receive a race ban for Barcelona, I've been informed by Lewis Wedding, so my apologies for distributing incorrect information before. That Playboy Racing green car will be hoping to not get a race ban this time around. Greg Turra has actually qualified behind Noah Turra, so Noah getting bragging rights there.
Actually, Turra didn't set a time in qualifying their Bagsy, so that'll be part of the reason for that.
There you go. So didn't even manage to get out for... Oh, he wasn't in the session. He dropped out of the session. Correct. So maybe those internet gremlins already affecting Greg Turra, but he is the penultimate Mercedes. Philip Boak, PBF Race Engineering, has made the grid. I believe they were at the Grand Prix today, were they not?
I believe so. So that's why they're a little bit late in getting in. And that was a suspicion as well that a number of drivers had been to the GP or been out celebrating or commiserating, and hence they're running a bit late.
Matt Williams, the FCR Team Scrouse, he's in the... Well, he's not in the SLS, is he? He's in the...
Yes, he is. He's in the SLS.
Oh, sorry, he's in the S... Which is slightly different to the cars of Jamie Snow and Brendan Ross up ahead, though. I think it's just a slightly different rear lights and such.
Yeah, it's the dead giveaway between the SLS and the AMG is the front and rear tail lights and the grille on the front as well. So now it's actually showing Matt Williams on our screen as being 13th on the road.
Yeah, I thought Foley was 13th.
Yeah, and Foley's actually 12th. So I'm not sure why he's sitting back there, but he is sitting back there.
I believe Foley and Boak were both, or one of them at least, was in a corporate box at the Oz GP. So hopefully they haven't overindulged too much there and are able to keep it all together.
Well, we'll soon find out, because we're coming through the Porsche curves right now, and just showing how much time has been chewed up. The 2 hours does not start until the safety car comes in and the green flag is shown, but we've already chewed up somewhat close to nearly 7.5 minutes just on this formation lap. So to give you an idea, we were thinking that we're probably going to double or triple the amount of time with the safety car intervention. Looks like the lap times are going to be effectively doubled. So as you rightly pointed out, Bagsy, at the start of the program, that will be a huge factor in terms of how many laps we're going to get in this race if it comes out.
Yeah, certainly it will be half the laps and also half the fuel. Safety car's about to make the gentle right-hand turn into the pit lane there.
Oh, be careful.
Oh dear,
and
that's not ideal.
Yeah,
we've had a bit of impact. That's unfortunate because the safety car driver is apparently drunk on power. Hand it over to you, Nether, for the start.
Well, the safety car causes the field to bank up a little bit, but everybody should get onto the start-finish straight here without too much drama. Not got any turns or anything to worry about. Now they all need to behave themselves and just settle in for the rolling start, give themselves some gap, because looks like Devonish has gone early. He has. So safety car was already still coming into its parking bay, and Devonish has bolted. So Devonish has got the leg up here.
Green flag.
He had the green flag and he was gone. And he actually used quite a lot of curb there at the first little bit. And he's gone around! Oh my goodness gracious me! Look, he's gone. And this has triggered a full course caution immediately. Well, that certainly didn't take very long, Bagsy. But I call it the fact that he used way too much curb through those first couple of bits of the S's. And he's gone from the front of the grid to the back of the grid. Disaster for Will Devenish. There it is again, using too much curb from the opposite angle, and around goes the Lamborghini off of the first couple of corners, and we are already under full course caution.
Yeah, that didn't take very long at all, although I'm not sure if the full course caution was for that or for Noah Tara also spun behind going into the first corner, got a bit too much curb, and he was in a lot closer to some cars, so it could have been either or a combination of both of them that meant that we got that safety car just then.
Reminiscent of what happened in the Super 2 start to the Super 2 season back on Thursday night. Safety car within the first few seconds of the race, and Will Devenish will be absolutely kick himself. Did everything right, managed the green flag start to perfection, then just silly mistake, just carried way too much speed. He went through Dunlop corner without any problem, and then started to tackle the S's, and then immediately way too much curb, and we caught it straight on the broadcast. It was way too far right, and these curbs can punish if you don't respect them. But the good thing is we've still got all 13 runners. Nobody has had any major impacts with the walls or that. Devenish's contact was just very light. And then for just trying to see if we can pick up Jamie Snow here, just to see if that car's carrying any real signs of damage. Doesn't look like it is. It might just be a little winglet that went flying from the initial issue where the safety car checked up the field. But at the moment it's a Mercedes 1, 2, 3 out front, Nangle in the SLS, followed by Snow and Ross in the AMGs. Matt Williams actually made a blinder of a start from the rear. He's already made it up to 7. We know what he's like when it comes to climbing places. He's already got 6 of them.
Yeah, he's absolutely had a monster start. Interestingly to see what will happen as we come around to the safety car, because as far as I know, the game doesn't exactly show who you're meant to be behind until the actual safety car comes out. So there's every chance that if that safety car was caused by Noah Tara and not Devenish, that Devenish could go back up to second or third if he hadn't, or even first if he hadn't been passed at the point that Noah Tara spun. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
No, you're certainly right. So it will all be very dependent on when the full course caution was called as to what the standings will be, because the order will effectively be frozen at the time that the full course yellow came out. Just a matter of whether or not any positional gains were done before that happened, or whether or not they get reset. Potentially it also could mean for Devenish that he ends up further up the field than what he actually currently is. But it remains to be seen. In actual fact, here they are. So they're a little bit off the back of the pack, but they're catching up to them now. It will also be interesting to see what happens when the pits do open, because right now obviously the pits are closed. If any drivers do opt to take a stop this early into the race, they'll be very furiously calculating where they're going to be. They would have predicted at least 2 stops in this race, and this is now going to throw a spanner in the works in terms of where all the stops will occur. Are they going to come in now and top off, or come in when not now because the pits will be closed, but next lap around they're going to come in and top off and change some tyres? Do they repair any damage if Snow and Devenish are carrying any sort of damage and get themselves out? Do they go on an alternate strategy to everybody else and stay out, or what's going to happen will be the key. Now, Nangle was looking like he was going to come into there for a minute, but as you can rightly see, the racing line is on the right-hand side of the track.
Pits are still closed also.
And the pits are still currently closed, so thankfully we haven't got anybody that needed urgently to come in and take a stop. And our safety car for the onboard from Nangle. We can't see it just yet, but it's probably up and over the rise, we would say.
Hopefully everyone is keeping their eyes open and are ready for having to slow down a bit. Otherwise we'll see potentially another pile-up, which we don't want to see.
Now we are looking to see if we can pick up where the safety car is. It's not...
it's just gone on to the Mulsanne straight.
Okay, so it's a little bit further ahead here. They're just coming through the section affectionately known as Tete Rouge. and now through the turn that leads them onto the Mulsanne Straight. There it is. So they're catching quite quickly. Now they'll all be able to see it. And we have a lull in proceedings here. So green flag running, we originally expected we'd get somewhere between 27 and 30 laps. That's somewhat going to be negated now, or shortened. And we'll roughly calculate, we probably think we're going to get at least 3 laps here under the safety car, which are going to probably chew up at least, well, if you do your math, about 8 minutes per safety car lap times 3 laps is 24 minutes, which is almost plus the original lap that we did. There goes a quarter of the time that we would normally spend. So when you do the math based on a 90-minute race with a 4-minute lap time, you end up with a further 22 laps. So we're only going to get probably at this stage about 26 to 27 laps, and that's provided we get going in a decent fashion as well.
Yeah, looks like Brenton Foley has been a bit stitched up by the timing of the yellow flag, because both Devnish and Noatara have been directed to go ahead of him in the longest line here.
Yeah, so that's, as you mentioned before, that will sort out the field here. So with Foley now, actually, he started 12th, has now obviously lost 1 position to 13th. Noatara down 4, Devonish obviously down 10, but they were, obviously means the yellow flag was called for just at the time where Foley was coming to approach them to pass them. So he's the unfortunate victim of that particular arrangement with the flags. But as we said before, the man who's gained the most out of this is Matt Williams. He's gained 6 spots, and we didn't quite see it on the broadcast, but he has a habit of this. He can pull. It's almost like pulling a rabbit out of a hat, or the magician's trick of pulling a rabbit out of a hat. He's done it in Formula 3. He's done it in touring car. He's doing it again in GT as well, where he just seems to time his starts to absolute perfection and picks up a number of spots from the get-go. And the question then becomes about maintaining that during the course of the race.
We're going to have a fairly long section here of not much happening.
No, you're absolutely right.
We will probably see pit stops at the conclusion of this lap, at least for people who are further back, but perhaps even for the front runners, because while they won't have used much fuel, it's probably not the worst idea to top up a bit and perhaps bank on further safety cars.
Yeah, well, that'll be the thing too, that the drivers certainly wouldn't have been expecting a safety car this early. We didn't have a safety car this early in the previous 2 races, but it certainly throws a spanner in the works for all these drivers. They'll all be thinking about, they will have known what their fuel burn numbers are in terms of what they could achieve in race pace, so they would have roughly known what laps they were coming in to stop, and now they're going to have a look at roughly how much they're consuming on this lap, and then figure out within a matter of, well, seconds really, do they stop or do they not stop. The question will also be how many drivers would want to stop, and it could be a very congested pit lane as well. Judging by the fact of where Philip Boak's car was during the warm-up as well, I would dare say that he's probably sharing not only a pit garage with somebody, but a pit boom as well. So we could see a number of cars on top of each other, and we have seen a few cars come into contact in the pit lane when safety car pit lane's been called for. Now, Brenton Foley has DNF'd. I'm not sure what's going on here, but we have unfortunately lost the championship leader. He was 13th on the road, but that looks like it's an internet disconnection as well. So we're down to 1 less PBF car, so that certainly didn't take very long to rear its head.
Unfortunately for Foley, he didn't even get a chance to go racing.
No, so he'll be rather disappointed that his internet's let him down again. Unless your name's Lewis Wedding, he'd probably be happy that the internet connection gremlins have passed on to somebody else, and can remember Lewis Wedding's what we used to call the binary season, the first season of GT. Basically, it was ones and zeros. So a 1 was a win, and a 0 was you did not finish. And you had a very binary season.
And
back then.
oftentimes those disconnect. Most of those DNFs were disconnects, and most of those disconnects were from a leading or close to leading position as well.
You're absolutely right. I think there was only one race in that particular season that wasn't due to a disconnect where he did not finish.
Hopefully everyone remembers what happened on the actual start of the race and realises that the safety car will inexplicably hit the brakes as they come to the start-finish area, or the pit entrance area rather.
Well, we'll see. And that was when the safety car goes in. If the safety car is not going in, which we expect it'll be going for another lap, remains to be seen whether or not it checks up. And no, it's not checking anybody up at the minute, but who's going to take the bait? Who's going to come into the pits? Nangle, Snow, Ross, Osrob. Who's going to make a decision? Steve Bolger stays out. Matt Williams goes in. So too does Greg Tara. So too does Phil Boak and Will Devonish and Noah Tara. So that keeps only a couple of cars out. Nangle, Bolger, Dixon and Miles did not stop. Now, who's sharing a pit boom with who is the next question.
Osrob's crashed on the way into the pits.
Yeah, where is Osrob? He's something's happened to him here. He's actually, yeah, I think you're right. I think he may have actually had a bit of a moment there. Let's see if we can pick anything up. Yeah, you're right. We have got some onboard. We've got some footage here. We're just rewinding the footage as Matt Williams has been given a drive-through penalty. Yeah, so something happened to Osrob on the way into the pit lane. We're going to switch to the onboard here. Actually, to the bumper cam. Actually, the driver's helmet cam. Here we go. Actual fact, there he goes. He clipped the inside wall on the pit lane, and he actually couldn't get. He got reverse, but he couldn't go back far enough because there are other drivers still coming into the pits. So
there's also been a collision in the pit lane between Greg and Noah Tara as well.
Alright, and the drivers are all starting to come out. So that probably wouldn't have worked out too badly for Osrob anyway. He would have had some damage to repair, but it does set him back. It was a lot further up the order. It does put him down to P11. But at least it's under safety car condition and not under race condition that he ended up coming into the pit. So if he has to stop under green flag, he'll be, I dare say he'll be a tad nervous coming into that pit lane the next time around.
Yeah, especially because he'll be coming in at speed, not under safety car conditions.
Alright. Well, the next question we have in store is how many safety car laps are we actually going to get?
We do have Lewis Wedding here with us, and I believe he might know how many laps the safety car is set for, but I'm not sure. Might be throwing him under the bus here.
Are throwing me under the bus a little bit. It's still set to random. That wasn't changed after Monza, so it could be after this lap, or it could be obviously a lap or two later. So hopefully it comes in at the end of this lap, but we'll see.
It won't be coming in at the end of this lap. I've had a look, but perhaps the next lap.
Yep, and what happened to Matt Williams was he mustn't have had his pit lane speed limiter on, because he was coming slowly into the pit lane and was going under the pit lane speed limit line, but then in the middle part of the pit lane he was doing 95, so that's how he's got his drive through.
Ooh.
That's very unfortunate for me. We did sort of forget about that in Osrob's incident at the start of the pit lane, but that is a costly thing, because he's going to be a long way back at the once he's served that drive through. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. And on top of that, there was plenty of drafting practice going on earlier in the week between the FCR teammates as well. So he's going to not only lose his current 5th place position in the queue, but he's also not going to have a drafting partner as well. And you need a drafting partner down some of these straights if you want to try and make any sort of time to catch up onto the back of the pack. But that being said, the Mercedes have definitely got some pace. It'll be interesting to see how they go using it.
Yeah, it definitely will. And we've got Matt Williams, Brendan Ross and Jamie Snow all lying astern at the moment. You think that Matt Williams might follow the safety car in, or at least wait one lap to do it, because every time there's a safety car, he won't be able to serve that drive-through. So he'll want to try and get it out of the way as quickly as possible.
No, you're right, and we did see, I think it was Steve Bolger attempting to serve a drive-through penalty at the previous round at Monza under safety car condition, but as we all know, that's a big no-no. You cannot do that. You can only serve the penalty under the green flag conditions. So Matt will unfortunately have to wait until the first full flying lap under green is completed before they can actually serve that penalty.
As regards to the safety car backing up and causing a little kerfuffle at the start, drivers were warned quite sternly that the safety car would back up, and they were warned to give a little bit of space and not to speed up as it obviously enters the pit lane. And well, the first 4 cars didn't listen, and well, a couple of cars missing some aero pieces because of that.
No, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of items that are brought up in the driver's briefing depending on all the testing that happens with the circuits in the lead up to a night's event, and those that elect to pay attention are the wise ones, and those ones that aren't opting to pay attention are the ones that ultimately will become a cropper. Thankfully it wasn't a huge amount of damage. It was just an aero piece here, there or two, but it looks like, I think it was Jamie Snow was the only one that ended up with a little bit of aero damage, and he's obviously stopped under this safety car as well, so he probably would have opted to get that repaired, even though it would have been relatively minor.
And another thing to look out for, I've only done maybe 4 or 5 laps just testing the track before it was released, but when I did test the safety car, I think I managed to save, well, I was only using about 5 or so litres or 5.8 I believe, if you're really vigilant and pulling the clutch in and doing all you can behind the safety car to save fuel, you can get it down to about 5.8 litre per lap under the safety car. Under racing conditions, obviously, it's about double that, but under the safety car, you can save a fair amount.
How much is the fuel burn around here, Lewis? I mean, you've obviously been doing a little bit of testing. What sort of fuel figures are these guys looking at in terms of their fuel burn at race pace per lap?
Well, I only did about, I think, 1 maybe 2 laps at race pace. I think this is just going strictly off the top of my head. It's a pretty wide range because I obviously can't remember, but I think I managed, it was either somewhere between 9 and 11 litres per lap, but that's obviously really rough because it was a couple weeks ago since I properly tested it, but it is quite a bit, but at the same time it's not as much as I thought. In the McLaren, I realised that I could get, in terms of time-wise, I could get about, I think, 32 or 34 minutes out of a stint, which is actually better than at most other tracks. So fuel consumption-wise, it's not too bad, even though you are full throttle for a lot of it. But still, your drivers would have probably needed to save to make the 30 minutes per stint. But obviously with the safety car out now, they don't have to worry about that. So...
Well, speaking of stopping for fuel, yes, so Dixon and Miles have opted to come in on this lap here, which will put them at the back of the pack. So Nangle and Bolger are the only 2 yet to stop, and we're hoping that we will get going racing next time around.
I haven't seen the pop-up come up saying the safety car will be in this lap, so I think we might have at least 2 more laps.
Well, it's a bit disappointing there, if that is the case.
Maybe a good time for us to take a quick break and just refresh our drinks and such, and leave you with pictures of cars driving around slowly for a little bit, so we can be ready to commentate them going fast eventually.
Well, you're certainly right. I think we will take a few moments here just to step away. We'll leave you with some live pictures. We'll just follow the race leader, Greg Nangle, behind the safety car for the next couple of moments, and we shall be back shortly. Don't go anywhere. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching the 2 hour of Le Mans, the part of the GT3 World Challenge here at Circuit de la Sarthe in the southwestern area of outside of Paris, about 330 km southwest of France. We're currently under safety car. We've been under safety car since about 15 seconds into lap 1, and the result of that safety car was, or the cause of the safety car rather, the race leader at the time, which was Will Devenish, unfortunately took the opening series of corners, the S's, a little bit too aggressive, a little bit too much corner, and nosed into the barrier, and then we had a spinner a bit further behind in Noah Tara, and hence we are under safety car. A couple of drivers just going wide there at the Mulsanne corner. Out of all the drivers that are still in this race, Brenton Foley the only retirement through internet disconnection. The leading 2 cars, so Greg Nangle and Steve Bolger, are the only 2 that have not stopped. A bulk of cars came in at the beginning of the pits opening at the end of lap 2, when the safety car came past the pit entrance and the pits were opened, and it left Nangle, Bolger, Dixon and Miles the only 4 cars that did not stop. And at the end of lap 3, it was Dixon and Miles who opted to take service, and they're subsequently at the back of the order in 11th and 12th. So it puts Nangle and Bolger on an alternate strategy compared to the rest of the field. I mean, they'll all be saving fuel, so there's actually kind of 3 different strategies in play here. There's the leading 2 and the less amount of fuel that they have in their tanks. All the drivers behind them from positions 3 through to 9, which have a little bit more fuel in their tanks. Then you've got Dixon and Miles have almost got tanks that are full to the brim, and Devenish is at the very back. Now I dare say he's probably come in and topped off, so he's probably on a similar strategy to Dixon and Miles.
It's probably smart to, is for Devenish at least, is just come in and top off each time you go around, because then you know you're going to go a very long time. As Lewis said before, with the McLaren you can get about 34 minutes from a tank, so I'm not sure how that translates to the Lambo, but you know, even if you get 30 minutes from a tank, you'd assume that once they go racing, he'll be able to go all the way to the hour mark, maybe a bit longer, whereas everyone else will probably have to come in a little bit before that. And being there at the hour mark is the best way to do it, because as we've seen, usually about 30 minutes a stint for most of these other cars.
No, absolutely right. We're looking through the field and seeing what sort of cars we're running here. So you can see we've got a number of Mercedes, a couple of Lamborghinis, a handful of Bentleys, the McLarens are there as well. So we've got a good range of, and also the BMW as well, we've got a good range of cars that have taken to the GT3 grid. Obviously the Ferrari 458s are missing this particular round, so Mike Coulston and obviously Brock Harvey, who is currently serving one race suspension, along with Corey Ott and Lewis Wedding, who is with us in the box at the moment. Safety car continues on for one more lap. Oh, and in comes Steve Bolger. All right, so...
And Matt Williams, and Brendan Ross, and Jamie Snow. So basically everyone has... Maybe they were listening to the stream and decided that they were going to follow my advice, or...
There's a lot of people in. There's a lot of people in this pit lane. So the order will be jumbled yet again, and you can see that the flag has gone, the time has gone green, but that's not correct. We're still under a safety car here. So that will mean that Nangle is the odd one out here. He's the, I wouldn't say he's the proverbial sitting duck, but he's the one that has not stopped at all. And as we detailed in several broadcasts, the nickname for this man is the Professor. He really knows how to calculate things to the nth degree, when to make the right moves. He's just very calm, very precise, and gets absolutely everything spot on. So we would like to hope that that's about to continue, because he'll be sitting there thinking about what everybody else has done up until this point and working on how far he can get before he has to stop again.
Just looking, I didn't see the pop-up come up for the safety car again this time, so this could still be going 2 more laps, which would be very unfortunate.
No, well, it's
That may need to be changed if it goes around again. I will have to log in and change that.
okay. So we'll keep a note on proceedings just to see what happens with that safety car. It's been out there for, this is the we're working lap 5 at the moment, so this is the 4th lap that the safety car has done, and we've already nearly chewed through a quarter race distance, and we're going to have, albeit 4.5 laps on the board, so we're itching to go racing again, but we are at the mercy of the random safety car interference here.
It'll be giving everyone plenty of time to determine what they want to do for their strategy. You probably have enough time going down Mulsanne at this speed to prep a whiteboard and draw all your formulas and stuff up there, get ready to go. You know, consult a couple of physicists to work out how you're going to do your strategy.
And
because there's lots and lots of time.
Take your hands off the steering wheel and use your fingers to count to 10 and
put your feet on the steering wheel, use that instead.
Work it all out that way, but not that we condone any of that sort of thing when it comes to motor racing, but given the speeds these guys are going at the moment, you could probably quite happily use your fingers to count the number of laps you could go before you stop again.
Yeah, they're going fast enough that their fuel economy is probably closer to a Prius than a race car.
Well, speaking of sorry, go on, Lewis.
I was going to say, strategy-wise, I think at this stage, I think a lot of drivers have probably got it wrong. Pitting every lap, it doesn't really get you anywhere at this stage. I think the smartest option, especially with Will, obviously he had that spin and it dropped him back. The smarter thing would have been to probably have waited. And obviously, people are going to pit under these safety car conditions. Obviously, we've got a track record now that once a safety car's out, people pit just about every lap. So if I was obviously towards the back of that field, I wouldn't have pitted every lap. I would have waited maybe a couple laps in and moved myself back up the field. And then obviously, hopefully get the timing right. And then obviously pit a couple laps afterwards. And then you find yourself up a few spots without having to pass anyone on track. While now he's pitted, I'm pretty sure, every lap behind the safety car. And he finds himself down in 12th. So I think if there is another safety car in future races, it might be an idea to perhaps just wait a couple laps if you are out of, obviously not in good track position early on, and get the track position and then pit the next lap and you find yourself up a couple spots.
This is a unique sort of situation though, in that you're very unlikely to go a lap down versus if you pit under green flags versus other tracks. So, and also, track position doesn't seem as important here just because you've got the time to cut your way through. I think Devonish is confident in his abilities, and that's why he's setting himself up, because he knows that Nangle hasn't come in at all, that Nangle stayed out the whole time. So he's probably thinking that Nangle's fuel is going to be in a more precarious situation than he is at some point further on in the race.
That said, though, it still makes it difficult. He might have gotten, let's say, 5. If Nangle was using 6 litres per lap, so about 5 laps in, 120 litre fuel tank, so he's used, say, so he'd be about 90 kilos of fuel right now, and that'd be, well, it'd get him, I reckon, at least 20 minutes. It'd get him 20 minutes of time, and okay, so you'd have to pit at 1 minute and 8 remaining. So I think strategy-wise, it'll be interesting, but just in terms of, it's not so much track position when racing. What I was talking about, it's more so under the safety car. Like he could have got free positions, just
by pitting earlier, yeah.
No, just by not pitting and then waiting for other people to pit and then on the next safety car lap to pit. Because we saw that at Monza.
Yeah, but then he'll lose all those positions.
No, because what we've seen is that people have a tendency, which I saw at Monza, where people would pit just about every lap under safety car just to get that extra 3 or 4 litres of fuel back. So I think if he had it just been a bit more smarter, he could have, he could be sitting in a 3rd or a 4th right now.
Yeah, that's true. We'll see how it pans out for him. Obviously, I mean, to be honest, at the moment, the smartest person looks like Noah Taro because he's got a lot more fuel than Greg Nangle does at the moment, and he has, I mean, slightly fresher tyres. Nangle obviously isn't pushing his tyres, but they do wear very slowly behind the safety car. But yeah, Noah and Dixon are the ones who look like they're in the best position because they didn't pit again for the third time, basically.
So is it the obviously Nangle hasn't pitted, so Tara or Noah, Dixon, and Miles. I think I did see Miles in the pit. So has Dixon and Tara pitted?
Yes,
They've
they
all
have.
pit at some point, yeah.
The only
So
person who hasn't toured the lane is Greg Nangle.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd say with that information, I'd say probably Heat's in the best position at the moment because he's a bit faster than Noah Taro, he's a bit faster than Glenn Miles, and Jamie Snow's also pretty well positioned because Steve Bolger isn't quite as quick looking at the lap times. So
There goes Nangle.
Nangle
Alright.
does go into the pits, and so does Miles.
Well, that puts Noah Tara for the very first time in this series. Oh, Heath had to check up very, very early there. He was carried a bit too much speed through the final couple of corners, but that puts Noah Tara into the lead of this race, and for the very first time in his very short career.
Have also gone in.
So hopefully we do get the message that the safety car is coming in.
Well, it'll be, if it's going to happen, it'll be very, very shortly because the control line is just here.
There we go, green flag next time round.
Okay.
Awesome.
We might need Lewis's intervention earlier if there's another safety car period, though.
I do believe that will be the case.
So in about 8 minutes, we will bring you racing with almost, well, basically a third of the race being held under the safety car.
Well, the car that's out front is a car that's also...
Nangle seems to have had an issue in the pits, or it might just be because he had to put more fuel in, because he's actually dead last now. Glenn Miles, Boak, Matt Williams, they all came in behind him, obviously, because Nangle's in the lead, and now he's behind all of them.
He would have put more fuel in. He would have been obviously down to 90 kilos, while the other guys who've pitted pretty much every lap would only be at about 110, 105 maybe. And the fuel fill rate with these cars is quite slow. So, you know, if you have to put another 5 litres in, that's a couple seconds. So that's where he's lost all that time.
Yeah, so not ideal for Greg Nangle there. But yeah, Noah Taro, first lap led for he, and he'll have a bit of a handful with Heath Dixon and Jamie Snow right behind him. Hopefully he's aware of how the safety car procedure works. I'm sure it was explained in detail by Lewis in the driver's briefing, so there should be no excuses.
Well, it is the same pretty much start procedure as obviously the start of the race. So once the safety car, obviously just before the safety car pulls in, obviously they were warned to just give the safety car a bit of space and each other a bit of space. And then once the safety car's in, they've actually been told to put the pit lane speed limiter on, and then they're to hold that until obviously they're through the final chicane and it goes green, and then they can let it go, and away we go.
Yeah, there you go. So we've got the exact what the drivers know is now what we and all the viewers know. So we'll be able to point out and criticise even more accurately than we have previously.
Well, when we get going again, we're going to have a McLaren 650S out front, 3.8 litre V8 twin turbo, and directly behind Bentley Continental GT3 4 litre twin turbo V8, and then a pair of AMG Mercedes behind them in Snow and Ross. So I dare say they'll probably swallow up Noah Tara quite quickly, and that's not an indictment on Noah Tara, but obviously still learning the craft and not as quick as the other guys that are out there at the moment. So we expect that they'll probably would like to think that they would probably bide their time a little bit, get through Dunlop, the S's, and then maybe get past down the Mulsanne straight if they can get a good run. But that being said, I think Noah Tara will probably still be trying to keep his foot in it. But we think it's probably going to only be a matter of time before probably the leading half a dozen cars swallow up that poor little McLaren.
That's the thing. This safety car, the whole safety car period started because Noah spun on the first corner and was dead last, and now he's going to lead the safety car restart. So it's funny how that has turned out in his favour.
Another thing to look out for strategy-wise, because we're already obviously 40 minutes into the race, I don't think it might be a strategy call for some people. I don't think we're going to see some guys actually change tyres for the race, because this isn't a circuit where you're going to accumulate much tyre wear.
No. We've seen some people change at the pit stops for just to make sure they've got fresh rubber for the restart, I suppose. But you're right, they could go the rest of the race without changing tyres, and potentially on one lot of fuel as well if they were able to really save. You mentioned 35 minutes from McLaren. Well, we're probably about 3 or 4 minutes away from the restart, and so that would give you an hour and 10. So you'd really only need one more safety car to make this on one stop.
No, you're absolutely right, Bagsy. This could very well be a fuel-only race from this point on. And to say what you mentioned as well, Lewis, the only real spots on this circuit where you're going to put some really decent lateral load through the tyres is going to be the likes of the Porsche curves, where it's quite a highly loaded tyre on the left and the right as you tackle those corners. The kinds of corners they're going through now, which Indianapolis and Arnage, they're not exact. You can see that's actually a banked corner. It's a medium sort of a speed corner too, so they're not going to put any real sort of high stress or strain on the tyres. The two chicanes are not exactly high speed where you have to really wrestle the car through them as well. So the only other circuit or the only other corner that really comes to mind is the first sort of sequence of corners as well. But apart from that, it's pretty much all smooth sailing, and basically is forward grip and forward bite rather than lateral grip required.
I think the big problem, obviously, well, the only problems I can see, obviously, with running, with worn-out tyres, is going to be obviously the two slower corners I just went through. I've seen in practice, and one or two of the laps I did, it is very easy to sort of lose the back end there. And I think it's turns 3 and 4, the left and right. The camber off that right-hander at turn 4 there, that's another one where it can get away from you, but if you've got a fairly stable car, it shouldn't matter. So obviously there's probably going to be about 2 pit stops left, and that's 20 if you don't change tyres. You saved yourself at least 12 seconds on one pit stop, and if you're going to change it on both, that's 20 to 24 seconds.
Well, time to pay attention, because the safety car probably will check up a little bit here as it comes into the pit lane, and they're leaving a bit of a gap this time, so you can see a few drivers on the brakes there. That's a little bit better restart this time, and now Noah Tara has control of the field, the very first time in his short career here in AMS Oz, and it'll be his prerogative to go when he has the green flag. Safety car still coming into pit lane, so there'll be line astern here. Some guys just looking to see what's happening here.
There's the green.
The green flag has been shown, and Tara goes. So Noah Tara puts the hammer down once he gets the green flag. That's a good restart from Noah Tara. He's got a few car lengths on Heath Dixon already as they head through Dunlop and up to the S's for the 7th time. Only the second time under racing speed. Can they get through all cleanly this time? Looks good so far. Everyone's line astern, biding their time on the restart. And on the outside is Jamie Snow having
under attack here.
Yeah, Jamie Snow was under attack from Brennan Ross as well, but I think Dixon's probably just looking for the right opportunity to go. There's a bit of smoke screen as we went past here, and now they'll open up the taps as they make the turn out of Tetra Rouge and down to the beginning of the Mulsanne Straight, and now Dixon's got
very wide out of Tetra Rouge. He's lost the position to Greg Tara.
He certainly has. Tara's ranged up on the outside, and Devon's buying into this as well. Now Dixon right in the wheel tracks of the McLaren, goes to the outside here, kicks up a little bit of dust on the grass. That's very, very close to the outside barrier. Noah Tara's going to hang on here. In actual fact, Dixon might lose position to Jamie Snow down the inside.
Jamie Snow's going to take both of them.
He's going to take both of them, and Brennan Ross is going to try and bite on this as well. So good good attacking driving from Jamie Snow. Down the inside he goes, gets the pass done. Dixon now falls back to
big
third.
contact at the back. Bulger's in the wall.
And Boak's shortcutting across the chicane as well. We stay green, just the local yellow. We'll pick up and see what happened there, because this is... they were side by side, these two. Look at them. They were touching, almost touching, with 500, 600 metres to go before the corner. What's happened here? Boak's gone for a pass, and he's run into Steve Bolger there. So that's a real disaster for Steve Bolger, and probably also going to be a driving infringement for Philip Boak as well, I dare say, after this race is done.
Got into the back of Matt Williams. Matt Williams, who starts to serve a drive-through penalty. Don't forget, hopefully he hasn't forgotten, or he will get disqualified.
And in all of that, Brennan Ross is through as well. So Brennan Ross is through on Noah Tara. Heath Dixon now going to look to go up the inside of Noah Tara, just through the kink here. Gets the job done over the hill, and now down into Mulsanne corner. And then they'll be on the run down towards Indianapolis. But it's Jamie Snow, Brennan Ross, Heath Dixon, your top three. They've all moved past Noah Tara. Now it's Greg Tara and Matt Williams, trying to line up the McLaren as well. But as you said before, Matt Williams has got to serve that drive-through penalty. Greg Nangle, who was the last man to stop, all the way still back in ninth, getting a tow there off Will Devonish. And look at this, they're too wide in such a very, very narrow section of track as well. Matt Williams going to try and go with Greg Tara here on the inside of Noah Tara. Through the kink they go, and Noah Tara, that is, wisely backs out of it before the sweeping right-hander that brings them down to Indianapolis. And Greg Tara, sorry, not Greg Tara, that's, Greg Tara just being passed by Matt Williams down the inside there. Devonish now has a bit of a look. Oh, that's a little bit awkward on the inside of Noah Tara, but he wasn't close enough to make the move happen. So Noah Tara slipping backwards through the field. Everyone's trying to get these passing moves done on the narrower sections of track rather than the wider sections of the Mulsanne Straight, but I guess that's just where it all comes to be. Devonish now under the rear wing of Noah Tara as well, and there won't be any passing through here. Ozrob's having a bit of a go here at Greg Nangle. He's got the elbows out, and now Nangle's on the inside for the next one here. Oh, Boak! Whoa, what a tank slapper that was behind the scenes.
That was almost a disaster and possibly another safety car. Let's see if Matt
Williams... and up the inside goes Ozrob again. Very, very aggressive. These guys are really aggressive, super early. Looks like Steve Bolger's still going, and that's a good thing, but he'll probably expect to come in. Matt Williams coming in to serve the drive-through penalty. Oh, geez, he had a massive tank slapper on there, but somehow manages to pull it up. Wowee. Let's have a little bit of a look at that, because that was... he's serving the drive-through penalty at the moment, but... we'll just bring it forward so you can see this.
Glenn Miles has spun in the
final
corner.
But just watch him as he comes in. He was really on the limit. Big tank slap. In actual fact, he shortcut the bounced across the grass as well. So really wringing the neck of that particular car as well. He's now back out on track, but he is second to last.
Yeah, he's only ahead of Glenn Miles.
Oh, and he's had a moment too. He's had a moment coming through Dunlop, I think that is as well. Caught some curb, and now falls behind Glenn Miles.
That's exactly what Noah Tara did to trigger the first safety car.
So, not a good minute or so for Matt Williams.
Bolger's been going quite well. He's already caught up to the back of Noah Tara. He's absolutely flying along at the moment.
And Steve Bolger, surprisingly, after having that accident down here where the two FCR AMGs are at the moment, he has really still managed to get motoring on. So I don't know whether it's... he might want to be careful when he comes down to some of these high-speed braking areas the next time around, because... actually, let's see if we can pick him up. How's that Lamborghini looking? It's actually not looking too bad.
Looking better than Phil Boak, who missed the chicane yet again.
There's a second lap in a row. Yeah, there's a little bit of a dent or so in the left-hand side door of that Lamborghini, but otherwise it looks pretty straight.
Oh, there's a pass for the lead happening here. Brendan Ross, Jamie Snow side by side, and Brendan Ross gets the position.
Oh, he did that without us sneaking up on him to see what was going on. Good job, Brendan Ross. So, Pro-Am leader actually now is the outright leader of this race. And we said this back at the Barcelona round. He's got a habit of making up some of these podiums at the moment. He's doing a really good job.
Got
Yeah,
Heath
he's-
Dixon setting a purple first sector as well, so he's catching back up to the front two at the moment as well.
Quite a lot of drivers setting up some really good sector times on that particular lap as well. But you're right, Lewis. The man who set the quickest sector was Heath Dixon at 1 minute 10:58 or 5:58 for the first sector. Everybody else in the 1:11s. Devonish at 10.8 and a Nangle at 10.9. Everybody else was in the 11s. So that Bentley is no slouch. The previous generation Bentley, actually, that ran through till 2017, and then the last one being released in 2018, which we all deemed actually all voted from the Bathurst 12 hour that we all attended for ARW, was quite an ugly car.
Yes, and has quite a silly button placement on the steering wheel as well.
Yes, so if you weren't paying attention to the Bathurst 12 hour, you wouldn't have heard, but if you were watching it, you would have seen Andy Suchek switch go to disengage the pit limiter twice in his 2 stints, and in actual fact hit the ignition off button on the steering wheel and basically kissed Bentley's hopes goodbye for the Bathurst 12 hour title.
Another thing to look out for at the moment as well is it's Greg Nangle. He's the leading, obviously, getter of the field that pitted on the last lap of the safety car as well. So he's got the most fuel out of everybody, as he's just about loses it there. But yeah, from all those that pitted on that last lap under the safety car, he's that leading pack. So from him backwards, they should go quite a bit longer than obviously the front three who didn't pit those last couple of laps.
You're absolutely right. He's already made his way up to 6th place as well. Second sector that time for a purple sector was Brennan Ross with a minute 30.0. Everybody else in the 31s except for Phil Boak with a 30.6. But this leading trio is starting to come together. In actual fact, Jamie Snow's under a little bit of pressure here from Heath Dixon. I mean, he's got to think about making a move soon. Brennan Ross sets a 58. Heath Dixon a 3:57.7.
Oh, Snow's had a big spin.
He has, and Brennan Ross had a bit of an issue as well. In actual fact, Jamie Snow's managed to keep it out of the wall and managed to keep it out of collecting Heath Dixon's Bentley Continental. What on earth happened?
Lost the one spot.
He's only lost the one spot.
Under a lot of pressure from Tara.
Well, what on earth happened there?
Clipped the curb on the inside, did the same thing as Matt Williams and Noah Tara.
Yeah, so he's gone through, going through Dunlop. Oh, that's a big moment.
Oh, Heath is very wide. Oh, he's in the wall and going onto Mulsanne. That's a big crash.
Oh, we've lost
Chance gone, Heath
Chance
Dixon.
gone, Heath Dixon, and not only that, we are back under a full course caution again. So while we're watching Jamie Snow, we missed the replay of this.
Oh, Nangle's on fire. He's out of the race.
So we're going to go back to Nangle in a second.
Incident too.
So what happened to Heath Dixon? So he clipped too much curb. Oh, and whack!
Nangle did the same thing, and so did Ozra. All three cars running very wide there and hitting the tyre barrier.
Oh yeah, there you go. And here comes Nangle straight into the wall. And Boak, oh Jesus, Boak just got through. And then Ozrob the same. Wowee. So I think the car to escape with the least amount of damage there has got to be Ozrob out of all of that. But yeah, Nangle out of this race. Dixon out of this race.
Well, that is unexpected.
To
say the least.
A corner. Now, this is a sim, so we can't say somebody left an oil slick down there or something, but 3 cars all committing at high speed at the same corner is almost unprecedented. But
it's just like they all lost their heads and thought, we can push, we're good for this race, we're going to absolutely go for it, and they've just all made very sloppy errors at the same point and have all just rinsed their cars into the wall. Yeah, the lucky one is Ozrob, who looks like his car is still drivable. Philip Boak, who was
Boak's the lucky.
He's kissed on the proverbial by fairies for sure, because he was nanometers away from absolute disaster and potentially blocking the track as well. If he'd hit Nangle, and then you would have splayed across the track between Nangle and Dixon, and everyone behind would have had no hope whatsoever of pulling up.
Well, it would have been an extra foot if that car of Greg Nangle was an extra foot away. It would have completely and utterly wiped out Philip Boak's Bentley as well. So He's a very, very lucky boy, Philip Oak. He's probably got the most...
he's just spun under safety car and gone into the
Oh,
wall.
yeah,
as you said that, literally as you're saying that, he's got too much grass coming into Indianapolis, and he's gone directly into the wall.
Yeah, so we're going to refrain from... I think, yeah, he was carrying way too much speed.
Noah Tara's done the same thing.
Except I think he only just nudged the wall.
Actually, Boak was worse. Boak was worse. He was actually carrying way too much speed into the kink before he even got to Indianapolis. So, for safety car conditions, there's some boys that are doing some very, very silly things at the moment.
Pushing, which is very... It's totally unnecessary.
No, that's right. And the sad part for these drivers is the ones that have made the mistakes and of carrying damage, they've actually got to go on for another lap before they can even hope to get in and repair any of the damage too. So, obviously the cars are still going to be drivable, they're still out there, but Dixon's out of this race, he killed an engine. Nangle was head first into barriers. Osrob sort of just managed to, I guess, pancake the barrier.
I don't think Dixon had killed his engine because he was still moving, but I think he just felt there was too much damage to continue around.
Oh, Will Devonish is very wide off the final turn as well, so...
Oh, Matt Williams has spun and hit the barrier.
We're just going to have to stop looking at everybody, I think, because this is just getting a bit silly now, so...
Yeah, Matt Williams is just understeered wide and clipped the barrier on the outside, and the barrier just sent him spinning around, so he'll have some pretty big damage on the left-hand side, if I had to guess.
It's going to be a case of what on earth's going on here, gentlemen, because it's just a simple case of...
Everyone's pushing too hard.
In actual fact, Philip Boak's come in, so this is a problem for Boak because he will take a penalty for this, stopping under safety car.
I think is it give him a... I think he'll give him a stop-go penalty when he leaves the pits.
Yeah, he'll be awarded a stop-go penalty, so we expect to see that coming up very, very shortly. I'm just wondering whether some complaint... This is Glenn Miles. Now we're just watching Glenn Miles just completely put two wheels on the grass on the run down to the Ford chicane. What's going on here, gents? We just got a bunch of everyone just being a bit complacent or not, getting too comfortable in their own skin and thinking they can push a bit more. What on earth is going on?
Maybe everyone just enjoyed too many beverages watching the Grand Prix earlier today. Who knows?
It's not like we're tackling turns 11 and 12 in of Albert Park in a Formula 1 car here. In actual fact, Boak's been given a drive-through.
Oh, just a drive-through, so...
Yeah.
Oh, there... Has he got two drive-through penalties just then? One for speeding, one for...
No, it says only... looks like it's one.
I'll have a look and see what he's done there, because normally it doesn't come up twice like that.
I think he might have got one for each of them. I think he might have sped in the pit lane and for pitting when the pit lane was closed, so not ideal for Boak.
Yeah, so he got it on... I'm pretty sure he got it on entry. He didn't have his pit lane speed limit on him when he got to the light and that little bridge, and he sped up to about 95, 96, and then put it on. So yeah, he's got two drive-throughs for that.
That is not good for Philip Boak. That is going to put him a long, long way back.
Yeah, well, certainly. Well, this is going to take some time for us to clear this up because we're now getting close to an hour into this race, and we've only got better part of 9 1/3 laps on the board. By the time we get around to the checkered flag or the line again, we're only going to have 10 on the board inside the first hour, and 2 safety cars to boot as well. So it's not making for some terribly exciting racing. Matt Williams actually, before this race took place, said from a commentary point of view it's probably going to be extremely boring, but from a racing point of view it'll be extremely interesting in terms of how all the strategies in that pan out. But we've seen our fair share of real good solid racing, but at the same time we've seen some very, very poor lapses of concentration and mistakes too.
Yeah, if you have a look at Matt Williams' car, it's dented in quite heavily on the left hand side.
Here it comes.
It's also got some dents in the front and
the back.
It's more just one giant dent that resembles a car more than anything else at this point.
That said, his right hand side's he's looking pretty...
Yeah, it's absolutely pristine on the right hand side, so if you're taking photos of it to sell it as a slightly used race car, you just have to make sure they're all from the right side.
Well, down to Mulsanne corner they come for the 10th time, albeit under safety car. I thought for a little while we were going to lose Noah Tara there as well, because he disappeared from the game screen just for a few moments on the previous lap, but he's still out there, which is good. In actual fact, both the Taras are still running. Greg up in third as well, so making it a Mercedes 1, 2 and 3.
Has been helped by 3 people in front of him having massive incidents coming onto Mulsanne.
Yeah, absolutely right there. So it's AMG
Hopefully
1, 2, 3.
We only have this lap and one more in the safety car as well.
Well, we'll soon find out, because there's no lapped runners, which is the important thing. But the question will be, will anybody opt to stop? Well, we suspect that we're going to have several takers for damage repairs, so we'll expect to see Matt Williams, Philip Boak, possibly Steve Bolger as well. Ozrob will should be in as well, and a number of other drivers I think are okay. So
you'd probably assume everyone would stop here, though, wouldn't you? Because they've done 4 laps at full racing speed, so they're probably pretty close to being at a point where pitting would be beneficial.
Well, we've got 10 cars remaining, and they've just got to be sure that they know who they're pitting around. I think is probably the more important point here. So you don't want to get balked in by a car that's going to compromise your extra lane. And we've already seen people lose positions in the pit lane, either by having problems with pit entry, speeding through the pit lane as well. You just got to take the time here to do it properly and know who you're pitting around, because if, let's say for example, you're somebody like a Brendan Ross, and you've got the first thing in the pits, the next thing you've got a car ahead of you that's having a damage repair, you need to know that you can actually get out and around that car quite quickly if you're in either adjacent pit boxes. So it all just depends on where everybody comes to a stop in the pit lane, and having to get around other cars to line up in the box to take service. Something that I actually had done back in the, I think it was the Porsche Cup days, there's an event we were held at the Montreal circuit, and I was actually boxed in by a car in front, so instead of trying to pull out to the right and go around the car, I actually went down the left-hand side and got around that way. So there might even be little tricks of the book that you can do like that here, but depends on how wide the pit lane is and how much room you've got to play with. And we'll soon find out.
We can see the tyre marks on the road from Matt Williams off last time round, but we're coming up to the pit lane, so let's see how many takers we have. I suspect every single person will go in.
Well, let's see how correct you...
maybe someone at the back will stay out to get track position, but I think everyone will go in.
Let's see how correct you are. So into the lane comes Brennan Ross, Jamie Snow, Greg Tara, Will Devonish. They're all coming in by the look of it. Ozrob, Steve Bolger, Matt Williams, Noah Tara, Glenn Miles and Philip Boak. You are correct. They are
actually,
all
I'm not sure
in
why
the lane.
Boak is coming in, because he came in last lap.
Unless he's got a damage.
I mean, I know he's going to have to... I know he's going to have to save a drive-through, but really, it doesn't make sense for him to come in.
I think it's probably just to remain on the same strategy as all the other cars in terms of a fuel strategy here, Bagsy. So he's probably
but it's only one lap.
It's only one lap with a bit of saving, but you have no idea what's going on. So here we go. Let's see where everybody winds up in terms of who's pitting alongside who. So here's the problem. See this here. Look at this. A lot of drivers all line astern. So Matt Williams is the very, very first car. And so he's trying to, look at this, and also Glenn Miles can't get into the pit bay here, so, and same too with Philip Boak, so these guys are going to have to share. Noah Tara had to reverse to get in. That means Glenn Miles is actually trying to get in here, and actually, in fact, collides with the pit wall. Philip Boak, I think, must be sharing, I think my earlier suspicions were correct, he must be sharing a bay with somebody. And look at this, Noah Tara has been dropped. He actually can't get out because Miles is there. So now out comes Brennan Ross. He's got a fairly decent run out. So too Jamie Snow. So they're out and away. Tara actually collides with the Tara hits the Tara. And actual fact, look at this. Will Devonish has actually gotten out. Also, Matt Williams gets out in third place. Actually, I think they might have given that to
got held up by the fact that Boak was sitting in the fast lane still as well.
Yeah, so that's a problem. I think Boak and I think it's Bolger or Boak and Ozrob are sharing a pit boom by the looks of things.
It's unfortunate because there's so many spare pit booms all the way back down the lane that could be used. But yeah, so Glenn Miles ends up the biggest loser out of all that.
Well, we might have to force administrative privilege here, I think, and potentially pull this safety car in once everybody gets back behind it, because the last thing we want is to wind up with another 5-lap safety car stint. everybody should get back behind the safety car pretty comfortably over the course of this lap. I'm just watching Osrob come through. His car actually looks like it's been repaired pretty well.
Yeah, Matt Williams' car's pretty clean now, so he's repaired all that damage. Doesn't look like he's got any dings in it. So Mercedes crew have done a pretty good job.
They certainly have, and he's been one of the cars to serve a drive-through along with Philip Boak, who has a pair.
And he's even moved up a few positions, has Matt Williams as well, because he's jumped ahead of Will Devonish and Greg Tarrer and all that.
Yeah, he was a big gainer. He, I think, was in a lucky spot where when he came in to take service, with where everybody was sitting and how everybody came in, and others obviously had more damage to repair than what he did. So he's been very fortunate there. I wouldn't be surprised if Matt probably didn't take some tyres on that stop as well, maybe to shorten the amount of time that he was stationary for and give the mechanics more time to repair the damage.
We've got FCR in formation 1, 2, 3 at the moment. I think that's why Matt Williams was flashing his lights. As FCR currently occupying every step of the podium.
Yeah, to do my my best Matt Williams voice, he'd be sitting there going, "Yeah, boys." So we won't be for very much longer because he does have a drive-through penalty to serve, unfortunately, Matt Williams. He has served it. You're right. Sorry, I do apologise. He has served it, as we have a woof woof woofing in the background there from Bagsy's dog Bane. Obviously enjoying the broadcast. Yeah, right. I do apologise to Matt. So he has served that drive-through penalty. It was
Philip Boak has 2.
It's Boak with the pair still remaining. For some reason, I thought there was another penalty still overhanging for Matt from coming in, but no, you're right. It's just Philip Boak that's going to have to peel off after the green flag is shown, and they've completed one flying lap. 55 minutes and change to go, so we're over the halfway distance in this race. It's been a bit of a lackluster on-track affair for the most part of this race, apart from the last safety car restart, which obviously delivered some good passing, but then also delivered some complacency, as the whole field is virtually on the same strategy now, with the exception of Phil Boak, who's going to need to get his drive-throughs served in consecutive laps and then pray for another safety car to catch up onto the back of the field.
Looks like we will be getting a full course yellow next time round, if I'm reading chat correct.
A green flag, you mean?
Yes, the clear yellow command has been put out. I'm not sure if the safety car will pull in this lap or at the end of next one, but at most
believe it comes in this lap, because the driver's got a message pop up saying that there'll be green flag next time round.
While we're waiting for the safety car to complete the lap, let's have a quick look through the best lap times. And for the better part of it, there's only 4, up until this point, the active drivers, there was 4 drivers still that have set lap times under 4-minute mark. So Brendan Ross, Jamie Snow, Will Devonish and Philip Boak, all under 4 minutes, with the best of them being Brendan Ross with a 3:58.1. The fastest lap was actually held by Heath. It's currently held by Heath Dixon, even though he's retired. So 3:57.7, and Nangle, before he retired, set his best lap the previous lap before he crashed. So did Heath Dixon actually, on a 3:58.7. So
I think that lends credence to the theory that they were just pushing too hard.
I think you're
They were
right.
just trying to set as many purple sectors as they could and binned it.
In actual fact, Heath probably didn't need to worry about trying to push that much too early anyway, because he was right under the rear wing of Jamie Snow on the run up to Dunlop, and probably just needed to bide his time a bit more and just back it off. And I think what he was probably trying to look to do is get some good power down through the Tetraroo section, and then that little kink that takes them onto the Mulsanne straight. He's probably looking to try and get a better run up, but obviously didn't time it properly, and also didn't get his line right, and hit the inside curb. So big no-no.
In my testing for that corner, it's a very, very fine line between being able to get on the throttle and take it really well, and if you miss the line by just a little bit and you try and get on the throttle where you're on the line there, you will run wide. And that curb, it's obviously as high as it is, it's pretty bumpy. If you get over that, you're in a bit of trouble. So obviously 3 of those cars did that. Obviously with the safety car being out for a long period of that, and obviously the track not being too...
It's coming in.
There we go.
Sorry to cut you off there, Lewis, but you mentioned the word safety car. Just precisely the right time. It's now in. So, third verse. We've had 2 verses. One was very short. One wasn't that much longer. Hopefully, we'll get some good running from here. Safety car is in the lane, and a couple of drivers just feigning what the intentions are going to do. Osrob's out there all on his own. He's got no friends at the moment. Green flag is shown, and Brendan Ross puts the hammer down, but he did not get the best restart there because look who's line astern with him. It's Jamie Snow and Matt Williams, and they're taking off in a 3-car train. Brendan Ross...
FCR 123 here. For
the moment, it is an FCR 123. Brendan Ross through the first section of the S's. Now down to part 2, which will bring them round to Tetra Rouge for the 12th time. A little puff of smoke there, a little bit of a lock brake. Just didn't get the angle that he wanted on the turn in there. And they've got to be a bit careful through here now. They've seen what happens. A little bit of braking just to get the line right. That's much better. Can all the cars get through this time? Looks like they have. Yes, they have.
Oh, Noah's run wide. Noah's run
wide.
Noah's
run wide. He's round. He's only one. And Glenn Miles managed to avoid it, I think, did he?
Yeah, he did just. There's some heads-up driving from Glenn Miles there, and no safety car, more importantly.
Well, we'll stay with the race leaders for the minute because Brendan Ross is clear of
Tara's
Snow.
just cleared Devonish as well.
He certainly.
Osrop's dropped back as well.
He certainly has. So Tara now makes it a Mercedes 1, 2, 3, 4. And Devonish, the pole sitter.
Oh, there's a touch. Tara's round.
I
think there was a touch there.
Well, Greg Tara is off in the gravel trap, off the first chicane.
Will Devonish is coming to a stop, so I think he might have knocked Tara around, and so he's waiting to address that position to avoid a penalty.
Let's see what happens here.
He did. Looking at it on board, he just gave him a nudge.
Yeah, he was. He was all over the curb too, actually, there, Will Devonish. So got him in the right rear. So yeah, there'll be a redress of position, unfortunately, there, and it's going to ruin both their races. So that puts actually Tara behind Glenn Miles. So Glenn Miles up to 7th on the road at the moment, and Will Devonish is now down to 10th. So he has redressed that position. But meanwhile, back up front, Phil Boak's still got to serve a penalty, but he's got Osrob on the inside, and then following Steve Bolger. He's actually in an excellent 4th place at the moment, Steve Bolger. Leading Lamborghini. A little bit wide there at the Mulsanne corner, and that'll give Phil Boak a run on him. Boak, we know, has got to serve a drive-through this time around.
That Lamborghini's got a lot of acceleration because he got a really poor exit out of that right-hand hairpin going over the curb, but he's been able to drive away from Phil Boak down the straight.
Yeah, he's managed to hold it quite well, actually. They come through the high-speed corners on their way to Indianapolis. This is where they came unstuck, and Boak, looks like he was putting a wheel on the grass there. Oh, and very, very close to back. Puff of smoke, had to get out of it. Had to get off the racing line to make sure he didn't run into the back of the Lamborghini there. Now, if I was Phil Boak, I'd just... Yeah, he's on a charge, but he's gone.
Oh, Bolger's wide.
Bolger's gone wide, so just lock the rears going into Arnage, and unfortunately that surrenders 2 places. But a little bit, just overdrove the car a little bit there, Steve Bolger. He'll move back up to 5th because Boak will have to serve a drive-through on this particular lap for pitting under the safety car, and also for speeding in the lane. And we expect he'll have 2 of those to serve. Actually, using a fair bit of curb there through the first bit of the Porsche curves. Maison Blanche now. Section of corners, and now down to Ford chicane. So we expect the Lamborghini to go up to 5th, the BMW to go up to 4th, as the Bentley Continental peels off into the lane. Now, needs to hit the pit lane limiter at the right point.
Yeah, he made sure this time. So that's one penalty out of the way.
So there'll be one out of the way. The question will be how many other positions does he surrender? So here comes Greg Tara, followed by Will Devonish, followed by Glenn Miles. And Boker's in the lane. And he'll come out behind Glenn Miles. So he comes out in...
He's not going to be behind Glenn
Oh
Miles.
no! Miles is off! Miles is off! Lost the rear wing. Locked the rears into Dunlop. And
no safety car though.
No safety car. He'll still be able to continue, but he's going to have to do a full lap without any rear downforce. That's a long way for Glenn Miles. Here it is. Actually dropped he dropped some wheels on the grass. That's what it is. He dropped it on the grass earlier, got back on the track, and then he was still too close to the outside and dropped the wheels on the grass again. So very poor mistake there from Glenn Miles. He actually wasn't doing too badly, but that Cadillac is not going to have any downforce whatsoever, and team owner Brian Walsh will be absolutely seething.
He won't be too happy. Just having a look, the Brendan Ross, Jamie Stowe, Matt Williams are all strung out a fair bit now, and now that Foley's charge has ended, Osrob and Bolger have also spread themselves out a bit. Devonish is closing on Tara at the moment. Boak hasn't lost the most amount of time, and I'm pretty sure he still has one more drive-through, but I can't see on his HUD if he has one or not, so it'll be interesting to see if he does have a second one to serve.
Well, let's cycle through and see if we can pick it up, and it actually says no, so maybe it's combined the two offences into one. So if that's the case, that's quite lucky for Philip Boak. But the only cars that he's really got around him at the moment, he's got Noah Tara behind and Devonish and Greg Tara ahead. So in actual fact, he hasn't lost as much time as what we thought he probably would. He's still got time to make it up. He is going to need a safety car to get back up to
I think he might be able to catch. I think he might be able to catch Charles Robin Bolger with his current pace, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't put it past him.
Well against them.
I wouldn't put it past him that Bentley's definitely got some good straight line speed, but won't get up toward the back toward the front unless we get another full course. Brendan Ross is checked out, and at this stage in the race, with 45 minutes left on the clock, to hold a 2.5 second margin is actually quite good.
They are going to be quite marginal on fuel towards the end. If there's no other yellow flag periods, obviously they will pit around the 30-minute mark, but with the laps being so long, that might put them a little bit early than what they'd like, so they might end up being a lap short. So it might be an idea for some of these guys. I don't know what the fuel exactly is like, but it will be quite marginal by a lap or so on if they can make it or not with obviously when the safety car came in and when they pitted.
So maybe a little bit of lift and coast is in order through some of the turns.
Glenn Miles has realised what happens when you go across the little mountain at the end of Mulsanne without a rear wing, and you get pinged straight into the barriers, even at relatively low speed. And
he's actually got some sort of suspension damage, I think, as well, because big front lockups from the front left as well. So he's definitely still got a long way to go. In actual fact, you look at the lap times, he was like somewhat 40 seconds longer through Sector 1. So still got a long way to go, that little green Cadillac. Meanwhile, back out front, it's still Brendan Ross. And to quote the words of Matt Williams, he says, this boy's getting too good.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be in Pro-Am for too much longer.
Look at that for a lap time too, 3:57.6. So he snatches that away from Heath Dixon by a tenth of a second and continues on his merry way. He's been driving very well. I've commented several times that he's been doing a great job in TCC. He was slowly getting better and better through the course of the WEC series as well, and he's really stepped it up going into the GT3 World Challenge, and in actual all forms, apart from that little,
he's run wide,
yeah,
though,
he's run that mistake there, but he's held on to it. But apart from that, he actually has been doing some really good driving. In actual fact, had a good run at the Bathurst 3 Hour as well, but just pushed a little bit too
Probably should stop
hard.
saying nice things about him, or he's going to have an absolutely massive accident at the rate of success we've been going with the commentator's curse.
Well, I'm going to quote Stairs here, Bagsy, because he always used to praise you a lot and say whenever we praise Bagsy, he inevitably F's up. So I take it it's almost a foregone conclusion that when we praise somebody, they always tend to prove us wrong.
Happened 4 times under safety car, let alone the main race.
Well, don't make it sound worse than it actually is.
Yeah, so on that last lap, just looking at the lap times, all drivers except for Noah Tara, Glenn Miles, and Steve Bolger, all under, and Matt Williams, he had a pretty scruffy lap, but everyone else under 4 minutes, with the majority of lap times being in the 3:58s, and obviously Brendan Ross being the exception, the 3:57.6. So the lap times are fairly close together for obviously fairly large track.
But on top of that, the only downside is that they've strung out, so the lap times being fairly close, they're not making any real gains or any real improvements over one another. The only real blot on the copybook there for Brendan Ross is his lead's gone from about 2.5 seconds to about 1.5 seconds now by virtue of running wide at the Tetra Rouge. In actual fact, it pinches the brake there, but still manages to make the corner from Mulsanne corner.
Well, Glenn Miles has just made it back to the pits.
Well, it's important for him to make it back to the pits too, so he'll get a new rear wing, he'll get out there and he'll get some points, most importantly, toward his Pro-Am challenge. So he's the third of the 3 drivers running under the Pro-Am banner in this particular competition as well. So anything's possible.
Will Devonish, he's got a fairly decent run on Greg Tara in front, so he's looking to make a move.
Oh, he's going to be very careful here because this is where the section of track starts to narrow up on the run down to Indianapolis, and he's got the inside line here to go through the bend. Now the next one is the larger kink. Now Tara's on the outside here, and he'll have to just be very careful. Can they get through side by side? Yes, they can.
Oh,
Gave each other some beautiful space. That's great driving. Tara holds off the challenge of Devonish at Indianapolis, but now this will put
Devonish has overlap.
Devonish has overlap on the inside for Arnage, and they go through again. And despite the fact that Devonish and Tara Devonish gave Tara a little love tap a couple of laps ago and redressed the position, he's now back past, and just goes to show the high level of respect these guys have. But Tara's not done yet. In actual fact, Devonish is trying to assume the proper racing line, but Tara's now put his nose right there, so Devonish couldn't turn down to get the optimal line through the Porsche curves here, so it has to take a slightly more compromised line. And Tara just following in the wheel tracks here. Is a back on racing line. They use a little bit more curb through that section of the curves. And
Matt Williams is falling into the grasps of Osrob here, and Bolger as well.
Yeah, very slowly. I've been keeping an eye on those gaps. They are slowly starting to come down as we watch them all come to the line this time around.
Matt Williams wide. Oh, we almost hit the wall.
We're watching here. We're just keeping an eye on Tara here because Tara's having another look down the inside of Devonish, but the forward chicane. But Devonish holds. In actual fact, Tara's had a moment and had a bit of a tank slapper on there. And unfortunately for Greg Tara, he has now dropped the back of Devonish quite substantially. We go back up through the order. And now you're right, Bagsy. That little moment for Matt Williams has put Osrob right onto the back of the SLS AMG. So this may not be an FCR 1-2-3 for very much longer. Osrob needs a good exit out of Tetra Rouge and now out of the kink that takes them onto the straight.
I don't think he's going to have the straight line speed, though, in that BMW.
Well, he's got the draft now, which is the most important thing. He's right up underneath him, so potentially he could get the job done. I mean, they approach speeds up here about 285 to 290. The question is, can he get it done? Matt's taking a defensive line, driving right down the middle of the road here. And Osrob says, well, you're going to do that. I'm going to go to the inside. And he's going, not quite gone yet.
Cigarette paper between
No, fair is fair. Who's on the anchors first? It's Matt Williams that backs out of it, and Osrob gets through. So good driving from the 555 DN racing car. That's a very good pass.
Yeah, he's doing quite well considering not too long ago, only 5 laps ago, we saw him almost piling into the wall, or he did pile into the wall. Luckily caught a glancing blow, and so didn't have to exit the race like Heath Dixon and Greg Nangle did, but he's survived. And he's up to third.
Well,
but
Matt Williams not done yet.
Coming back at him. Matt Williams decides to back out of that one.
Yeah, the racing
Also had
line
the preferred line. So Osrob keeps the position for now.
certainly does. That Mercedes has definitely still got some straight line speed, but in the draft, it's very, very important here. As we said, you have a drafting partner, you can make headway quite quickly if you do it properly, and that's why the FCR guys were 1, 2, and 3. Now Matt Williams going to the outside here over the hill, and now through the kink onto Millstone Corner. Look at the difference in straight line speed. That just goes to show you how reliant Osrob was. Oh, it's Steve Bolger's very, very wide, but he managed to keep it out of the wall. He's just got to be careful with his rejoin, but he's got plenty of margin to Devonish, who's just approaching Millstone Corner now. So very, very lucky. But just going back to
Boak has dispatched Tara as well.
Yeah, Boak set the fastest first sector of the race, so he must have got obviously a decent slipstream, but he's obviously travelling pretty quickly as well.
Minute 10.08 was his first sector there for Philip Boak on this particular lap. It just goes to show, obviously, we were talking before, the straight line speed of that Mercedes, how dependent Osrob was on the straight line speed and the wake that the draft gives you to catch up to the back and get past Matt Williams. So I think he's probably going to have to just rely on Matt here to try and drag him up to the back of these two AMGs if he can, because the more they fight and squabble, they're already losing time to Ross and Snow. And they've got 36 and 3/4 minutes remaining with, we believe, one more stop to go, although it might be quite marginal. Is Matt Williams maybe going into a fuel conservation mode to make sure that he actually does it on one more stop?
Well, I think they'll really, because if he doesn't pit here, then after one more lap, he'll presumably have enough fuel to make it to the end. Although I do remember, and our viewers should as well, that it is time plus one lap. So this race could actually go a fair distance longer, just based on the fact of when the leader comes across the line.
Well, we've only got to look to the stories of Toyota running out of fuel with a lap to go in the 24-hour race a few years ago to realise that fuel around here is a very important commodity, and you definitely need to have enough for when you actually go to that.
Barcelona.
Correct. So another lap for these two. Jamie Snow still losing, slowly losing touch of Brennan Ross. His last lap around was somewhat, actually 1.2 seconds slower previous lap as well. Now Glenn Miles is just sort of getting out of the way there in the Cadillac. Now where's Philip Boak in all this? Because there it is, 57.2, so you're absolutely right, Lewis. He's really motoring at the moment, that Bentley. In actual fact, just took a bit too much curb there, shortcutted the S a little bit, but he's really got that Bentley motoring and still trying to hunt down Devonish, the first of the Lamborghinis to come along, and Steve Bolger not that much further up the road either, but a little bit. Back to these two. Here they go again. He's gone the outside line this time, so maybe looking for the switchback. Matt Williams got the defensive inside line on the anchors hard, and Osrob manages to make it work. So on the inside and the outside.
He can hit the brakes so much later. It's unbelievable. I'm not sure how much lighter the car is, but clearly it's a lot lighter enough that he can wait almost half second to a full second longer on the brakes than Matt Williams, and that is so much space in a braking zone.
Must have it beautifully balanced on the brakes as well. I mean, the only really hard stops are the two chicanes and the Mulsanne corner, and then down to Indianapolis, the real hard braking events. Although Matt's too far back to challenge this time around, but this is the section where he challenged and got back third place last time on the run between the second chicane and the Mulsanne corner, and see if he's close enough to challenge this time around. I somehow think he's probably going to... No, he's a bit too far back this time, so unless Osrob makes a mistake, there will be no change back for third place. And looks good, and now Osrob can try and get out after Jamie Snow.
I think we might see all the FCR cars pit this lap. If they think they can make it to the end from here, which will be touch and go depending on when they cross the line, to be honest. but I don't know. We heard 35 minutes, Lewis, for the McLaren. So is the Mercedes thirstier?
Yeah, 30. No, the Mercedes, sorry, is a little bit better. But what you've got to factor in is that there's an extra lap, so you can't just go to say, because he'll pit. Let's say you'll get to the
big lockup. Sorry to cut you off there, gentlemen. Big lockup. It was actually Glenn Miles, but he's actually off safe at Indianapolis as Greg Turra gets a massive tank slapper on as well. All we saw was plumes of smoke there on the broadcast. We didn't know what was going on, and a few other drivers starting to lock their brakes up as well.
But yeah, what else? Obviously, before that, all that happened, but it, is that you have to add the extra lap on. So if you pitted now, you'd probably be a lap short because you've got to factor in the time for that extra lap, and usually, so often is the case, is that the leader will cross the line at the most inopportune time, and you have to do like the extra lap that you haven't planned for.
Well,
so
Brendan Ross has picked the pit lane, so I was wrong about that.
Yeah, so
they all called off their pits.
Yep, so you'd want to go at least another extra lap just to be safe.
And the other thing will be too, I guess, Lewis, is when you see one starting to react, you probably expect all the others will react as well. You know, even if the FCR guys are trying to coordinate and synchronise their pit strategies, all it takes is for someone like Ozrob here to realise that, you know, the guys ahead have gone into the pits, and then he'll be in like a flash as well. So it'll put them on the same strategy, and it'll just be a sprint finish to the flag, which is what you want because you don't want to be undercut here.
Yeah, that's it. Like if you're one of the cars behind, you've sort of got a little bit less to lose, and because the cars in front don't generally look at obviously maybe a car that's 10 or so seconds back in their live timing, you can take advantage that way if you're behind. But if you're in front, yeah, it's sort of a bit of a different deal.
Ozrob flirting with the barrier again. And up to that point, he'd actually gained quite a good margin on Jamie Snow. He'd actually got the gap to under 3 seconds. Now it's gone all the way back out. Giving Matt Williams another sniff.
Ozrob was actually the fastest man on track last time out, but I don't think he will be this time.
No, somehow I don't think he will be. Well, we're getting down to 3/4 race distance, and we've got 16 laps in the books, working lap 17. So if you do your math at home, you work it out, we're probably going to get this lap, and I dare say another 8 more. So we're probably going to be looking somewhere around the mid, about 25, 26 laps as it stands.
Pretty incredible considering how much time we spent on the safety car initially.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm a bit surprised as well.
We've got Noah Turra in the pits. Phil Boak's pit crew are getting ready, as are Matt Williams, who's just had a spin.
He has. He certainly has had a spin. We just caught it in back a shot. So that is all. And he's got, and Steve Bolger's managed to get through, and Devonish going to get through as well. So he has
Boak's
not
buying into this as well. So after a drive-through, Boak is almost up with Williams.
So what did Matt Williams actually do?
Clip the curb, if I
No, he didn't. No, he didn't clip a curb at all. Was completely devoid of all the curbs. So he stayed off the curbs. He just put a little bit too much gas on. So maybe it's a traction control issue or something there. But he's made a few mistakes in recent weeks. Actually, Matt Williams. Oh, he certainly has too. We're just coming back to the live pictures, and Boat was all over the shop. But just coming back to Matt Williams, unfortunately for him, he's made quite a few mistakes. Not only this race, he made a few in Thursday night in Super 2 as well. So very uncharacteristic. I'm not sure what's going on there, but he's certainly very un-Matt Williams-like.
I do believe, I did hear that he may have been going to the Grand Prix this weekend and he was going to have a few drinks with Jamie Snow. I don't know if that was yesterday or if that was today, but perhaps that might be the case.
Well, if that's the case, you've only got to look at where their positions are on the racetrack at the moment. Jamie Snow's quite happy there in second place. Ozrob was gaining on him up until a little trip across the gravel.
As Brendan Ross comes towards the pit lane, we are pretty much now at the point where you could pit and make it to the end.
Well, he's got a fuel warning light, as you can see there on your screen. Oh, he's made a mistake! He's made a mistake! but he somehow manages to gather it up. That's a very, very lucky, fortunate bit there. He will have a little bit of damage, and he continues on. And so too does Jamie Snow. So they're probably going to go one more lap here, but my oh my.
Osrob's in.
Osrob's in.
Spinning.
All right.
He hasn't got his pit crew aren't ready, so that might cost him a little bit of time.
We'll soon find out. And who else is going to come in? Any other takers? Steve Bolger stays out. Devonish stays out. Matt Williams is coming in. So too's Phil Boak. Phil Boak right up to the back of Matt Williams and Kathunk. Thankfully.
And we've got Greg Tara out as well. He's retired.
So Tara's out, so we missed that one. But Phil Boak came with a head of speed and just like Shane Van Gisbergen, Kathunk on the back of Matt Williams' car. But thankfully, no real heavy damage. But these guys are now going to fuel to the finish.
Well, Osrob's going to get blocked here.
He is, so Osrob's going to have to engage.
Actually, I think he's got enough space to get around just.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. We're going to keep our eye on this. We're going to stay with it just to see if he can get out. And they're changing tyres.
They've changed tyres as well.
They certainly have.
Yeah, with Greg Tara at that just after that right-hand kink there, he ran wide and on the grass and couldn't slow down, and he went straight into the barrier, and that was him done.
So our fourth retirement, Greg Tara then, out of 13 runners, and Osrob gets out, but he does give Foley a little tap to get out. So very, very close. It should be all right.
I reckon what happened, I reckon Matt Williams, obviously with that contact, he wouldn't have adjusted maybe his damage, and it's given him a longer pit stop.
I think you're right. And it would have done the same for Boak as well. So they get out and get going, so...
And Will Devonish has got past Steve Bolger.
He certainly has. He's done it down the Mulsanne straight.
Bolger's coming back, though.
Yeah, he's not giving up hope at the moment, Steve Bolger. He wants a good finish. And the two Lamborghinis are side by side as they approach the second chicane. I believe it is. Yes, it is. And Devonish thinks better of it and says, you know what, there's still plenty of time to go. I'm going to let him go through here, and I'll have another crack on the run down to Mulsanne.
He's got a better run here already.
Yeah, it's a miles better run from
Devonish. Yeah, clear coming off the second chicane. He was going to have a go here. He's already on the side.
He's not fast enough down the straight. I reckon.
Yeah, he's running much higher downforce.
Yeah, Bolger must be running zero downforce in that thing because he was driving away from Tara in the Mercedes early on.
He certainly has. Look at that, and manages to hold off. So that'll a little bit of head scratching now for Devonish. He's going to have to try and get a move done under brakes somewhere.
Devonish just came out from behind him and just stalled out completely.
Yeah, so he'll be thinking, I'm running the same car, the same engine. What am I doing wrong here? But he's going to have to get a move done under brakes, and here he goes, swings to the inside here, and he'll be on the inside for the kink that leads on to Indianapolis, puts Bolger on the high side. Bolger backs out of it and concedes the place to Devonish here. Now, looks like Devonish and Bolger potentially might be in this lap, or at least Devonish is going to be.
Brendan Ross will pit as well. His pit crew are getting ready.
Yep, and looks like Jamie Snow as well. So this could be final stops for sprints to the flag here.
Real question is, have they lost time? Well, first off, are they going to take tyres? And second, how well has Osrob's outlap been?
Well, let's have a look at Osrob's times on the board. So his first sector was 1:11.9 last time around with a pit stop. So that's not too shabby compared to Matt Williams at 1:12.4 and Boat with 11.5. So
remember, it will count that from after they've left the pits.
It certainly will. They wouldn't have been up to full 100% speed as well. So in comes Brendan Ross and Jamie Snow. It's into the lane they come. And it's curb cam. Now, the two FCR cars are in. The two Lamborghinis are in. Steve Bolger's come with him. Now,
Osrob's just going through Arnage.
Yeah, so he's going through Arnage corner now. Let's get a read on his second sector split when it comes up, and it's a 31.7. So, to give you an idea, Snow and Devonish did 30.7 and 30.9 respectively on the previous tour. So his outlap's not that great at the moment.
I think the fuel is what's slowing him down. Not so much the tyres. I think having low fuel is better than having brand new tyres.
Extra 10 seconds for a tyre stop, though. And it looks like both FCR cars have taken tyres, and both Lamborghinis have not. So that could be interesting. I know there was more than 10 seconds between
Well,
them.
here they are.
They'll still be quite close.
Here's our
That will hold up Jamie Snow. I reckon Jamie Snow might be in trouble with that.
well, here's our pit exit cam. We're looking to see what's going on, and is that Jamie Snow's on the
Osrod's coming
move?
through the forward chicanes
And here
now.
we go. So
Snow's ahead.
Snow's ahead, and so too
Those
Devonish.
Lambos are right there.
They certainly are.
They're only about 15 seconds behind, so that's why they've closed up.
Wow.
So
So
Osrob has lost out 2 positions here.
he certainly has. He's very poor outlap from
But
Osrob.
fresher tyres.
His outlap was a 4-minute .5.
I think to look out for, I reckon Devonish is probably the man to watch now because he was travelling pretty quickly. Even though Brendan Ross has got pace in that thing, he's got to obviously get past his teammate. But Will Devonish has been pretty quick when he's not been obviously having to race Osrob or Steve Bolger. So he's one to look out for in the final 22 minutes.
Well, you're certainly
How do you
right.
think the tyre difference will affect them, though?
I reckon
Osrob's past Steve Bolger. Osrob gets past Steve Bolger in the background and makes a mistake coming onto the Mulsanne straight, so that gives Osrob one of those places back. He's got to get on the hunt after Devonish now, so he splits the Lamborghinis.
Yeah, the rear tyres are going to be something to look at for obviously Steve, who did get a bit sideways, and that's why he's obviously dropped behind Osrob. But yeah, the rear tyres, especially in that last sector, that's going to be something to look out for Devonish. If they're not too bad, he's a chance, but you'd probably want new tyres at this stage.
I think you're probably right there, Lewis. And the next important question
Brendan
is...
Ross is in the tracks of snow and gaining fast.
I'm wondering whether or not these guys are going to work together here, Bagsy and Lewis, because they know that Devonish potentially is going to be a threat from behind. They don't want to slow each other up by squabbling over places this early. They probably want to build a gap, and then I don't know what the team orders are, whether or not they're free to race or whether they'll be told by team owner Matt Williams to hold station. But in any case, I think they need to open up the gap early and try and get away from Devonish before they can think about the win.
And Osrob as well, he's very quick at the moment. He set a 109.9 in that first split, so he was a good 1.5 seconds faster than all of those in front.
That is a mega lap or mega sector at this time of proceeding. So you're looking at the times here: 109.9 for Osrob, and the others are 11.4 for Devonish, and 11.5 for Ross, and 11.5 for Snow. So the man on the move is Osrob, but also Devonish is coming too. So this race could potentially come alive in the closing 20 minutes and change, as it's very much a sprint finish to the flag. It's FCR 1 and 2. Jamie Snow from Brennan Ross. Will Devonish for Lamborghini and Belong is third. Osrob in fourth in the 555. Steve Bolger is your top 5. Matt Williams off the back at 6, with Boak Turra and Glenn Miles the final classified runners, with Miles being a lap down.
Yes, I think with regards to the team orders at FCR, I think it'll just be that they're probably allowed to race, but they can't do so and hold each other up. So obviously Rossi's probably going to have to get past Snow on the Mulsanne. That's probably the only place where obviously team owner Matt Williams will want them to pass. That way they don't lose any time to the cars behind.
That's right. Well, speaking of losing time to the cars behind, they're really not at the moment, because have a look at the second sector time. So both the FCR cars, a minute 30.5 in the middle sector. Will Devonish a 31.9, Osrob a 31.1. So they've opened up the gap to Devonish. It's now to 5.5 seconds. So they've got that middle sector absolutely nailed. So Devonish's car not set up for the high speed stuff by the sounds of things.
Osrob is right behind Will Devonish right now, so I think pretty sure Osrob took new tyres. Well, obviously Devonish didn't, and Osrob very quick right now.
Yeah, he certainly is. So let's see what happens coming down to Ford Chicane. Line astern.
Brendan Ross is very close to Jamie Snow on the front
Yeah,
straight.
we just see. Oh, they're both very wide off the final corner as well, and they'll set some time. So Brendan Ross 3:59, Jamie Snow 3:59, so almost identical times. 4:01 last lap around for Devonish, 3:57.7 for Osrob, his quickest lap. So he's churning out his quick laps at precisely the right time of the race. The question is, has he left it too late? Because the cars ahead in Snow and Ross disappearing off into the distance rather quickly, and he's going to need to clear this Lamborghini fairly soon.
The problem's going to be, obviously, he'll clear if he obviously does clear Devonish quickly. Is that Devonish will get the slipstream and probably try and pass him.
Oh, Devonish is wide. Devonish is wide, and that was easy pickings for the BMW driver. There was no ifs, buts, or maybes about it. He made the mistake, surrendered the place. That is that.
Ross made a mistake further back, a few corners before Mulsanne, so he's a long way back on Jamie Snow now. He won't have a chance in the first chicane.
Devonish has got a good run coming up to the chicane. He's going to have a go here.
Well, we know how deep Osrob can go under brakes into the chicane. How deep can Devonish go? Very deep. Took a lot of curb. Gets the job done. So this might not be too bad because they're slipstreaming each other, but at the same time, they're losing time to the cars behind. Meanwhile, Matt Williams down the inside of Steve Bolger at the same chicane, so another
Bolger's
pass.
Lost his bonnet.
He has,
somewhere
yeah,
along the way
he's
as
lost.
well.
He has lost his bonnet somewhere along the line. So, in actual fact, he was quite clear of Matt Williams. He was about 6 seconds clear of Matt Williams at one point. So he's become a cropper somewhere. But nonetheless, he's back to where he started. In actual fact, the Bentley of Boke is ranging up onto the back of the pair of these guys as well. So, could very well be another couple of positions to change in the closing laps. We go back to this battle for third place. Devonish and Osrob. They can see the Mercedes AMG cars ahead, disappearing off into the distance. Osrob now to the outside, coming up to the King. This is dangerous territory. Don't think he'll have a go around the outside here. No, he'll just stay high and wide and then take the preferred optimum line into the corner. Devonish smokes it up, and that gives Osrob a real run. He was a couple of car lengths back, but now he's literally Morse coding on the back of the Lamborghini's bumper all the way down to Indianapolis.
Yeah, he's gonna. Looks like he might have a go into the kink. These very fast corners. That Lambo just seems to have the pace. Oh, he had a look at the inside there. Is he gonna have a go after the kink into Indianapolis instead? We know that BMW is much better in the corners than the Lambo is, although Devonish is running high downforce.
No, sir.
It's like oh wow, it just takes that corner so much better. Is he going to go around the outside of Arnage?
No, he'll stay high and wide, I think, here, because Devonish has got the defensive line, but Osrob will try and get the better drive out of the turn, and I don't think he'll manage to get it done before Porsche curves, but...
Oh, Boke just had a big moment coming out of Indianapolis there.
Those two battling has cost them 2 seconds in the middle sector alone, so Osrob will want to clear Will as quickly as possible, otherwise, obviously, any
down the
chances...
inside, there he goes, gets it done. First section of the Porsche curves, you called it, Lewis. You wanted to clear him as soon as possible, and the minute we call it, he gets it done down the inside at the beginning Porsche curves. I think he can get away, though. Well, he's got
I don't think he can get away from him.
I think he's got better sort of traction through here. He's pulling a small gap. He's got to get that gap because otherwise the Lamborghini ranges up onto him through the Mulsanne Straight. So he's got a few car lengths now, which might actually be enough for this next lap.
He's passed him in the exact spot where you'd want to, because if he'd passed him on, obviously at the Mulsanne, Will Devonish can get him back down the straight. Because he's passed him in this section where there's all these corners and Osrob's on new tyres or Will's on old ones, he can pull a little bit of a gap if he doesn't make a mistake, which he did through the chicanes just there. So it's allowed Will to close back up. But now that he's passed him at this part of the track, it gives him a little bit of a chance to sort of break away.
Speaking of closing back up, Brendan Ross has closed right back up to Jamie Snow. He made a mistake at this part of the track last lap, which ruined any chance he had of getting a pass down Mulsanne Straight. So, how is he going through it this time? He's going a lot better than Jamie, the same as Jamie Snow. Essentially, the line astern just has to take this corner onto Mulsanne, and then he will have a decent run behind Jamie Snow and a massive slipstream.
And behind them, Will Devonish at the first chicane made a mistake, and he's dropped out of slipstream range now. So Osrob, he looks like he's free to push ahead.
Oh, and actually Devonish is retired. Something's happened to Will Devonish. I think
Internet connection. Internet connection.
That's an internet issue right there.
Well, just in the background of shot, we've seen him go straight on at the kink that brings you onto the Mulsanne Straight. So, unfortunately for Will Devonish, he has lost out again on what could possibly have been a good third place. So that will promote Matt Williams to fourth, Boke to fifth, and Steve Bolger back remains at sixth. The question now is...
Williams will be wishing all the ill will to Osrob's internet provider at the moment. because if something happens there, there'll be a 1-2. Oh, Brendan Ross has got past Jamie Snow. We've missed that while Will Devonish was
Well, here they go.
going off the track.
Yep, down the outside. So slipstream job between the first and second chicanes, and Brendan Ross locks up into the second chicane as well.
That's a lot of pace
That's
loss there. Jamie Snow's
yeah,
actually not really capitalised there.
No, not close enough to capitalise on it. But they're pretty much free to race, I think. Now the question will be is, can Ozrob really make any inroads into these two? He's got 13 minutes. He can still see them, which is the most important thing. In the last lap, Brendan Ross and Jamie Snow have been consistently doing 3:58s on the last, tour. But Ozrob has definitely got the pace. He's in the first sector, he's at 4/10 quicker than Brendan Ross, and he's over a second quicker than Jamie Snow on the previous tour.
It's the first and middle sectors where Ozrob's been pretty quick, but in the middle sector, the Mercedes pretty much everywhere. They've smashed everybody. So if he wants to obviously catch up to Snow and Ross ahead, he's got to find more time in the middle sector, but keep doing what he's doing in the first and last sectors.
Yeah, it's the middle sector just being straight chicane, straight corner, straight, basically, with Indianapolis at the end of it. It's where the Mercedes really shines. Ozrob is quite good through the kink and such, but yeah, it's, that being said, he's already closed the gap down by almost 2 seconds since the start of this lap.
We're going to wait to see what the sector splits are when they come through here. So Brendan Ross with a 1:31.3, Snow with a 1:31.7, Ozrob with a 1:31.3. So he matched the leader's pace in that second sector that time around, took a further 4/10 out of Jamie Snow. So the gap is coming down, but he may have left the run through late here.
Matt Williams has had a problem because he's dropped back behind Phil Boak.
He's got damage. He's got something on the front right-hand corner that's going on there. What's happened to Matt Williams? Looked all right through went straight on, understeered massively straight on. Boat good avoiding action. Matt Williams went straight on at Indianapolis, and that'll be front suspension damage and probably a flat tyre on that SLS as well.
Oh, he's had a massive crash. His car
he's gone
not
straight on at the Porsche curves as well. So he is out of this race. So 3 out of 3, unfortunately, for Matt Williams in terms of not finishing. And his championship hopes is slipping away very, very quickly at the moment, as our live timing just gives us a checkered flag, which is actually not correct.
That'll be because I believe Matt Williams left the server. But yeah, that gap has come down now. It's now 6.8, so Ozrob 1.2 seconds faster in that last sector there.
Yeah, he's really wringing the neck of that car and wringing it in a big
it's less
way.
than 5 seconds now between Ozrob and Jamie Snow.
On my screen it says 5.6, so he is bringing it down, and there'll probably be about 3 laps to go. Maybe 3, maybe 4 laps at most.
What's been concerning me for a little while, gentlemen, is Brendan Ross and Jamie Snow have had fuel warning lights. On my screen, I'm getting the fuel warning indicator that says that they're running low on fuel, but I'm not sure if that's entirely accurate or not.
No, I think that's just a little bit of a... Must be a little bit of a glitch, because it has it for Phil Boak as well.
Yeah, Ozrob's the only one that I can see that actually doesn't have it at the moment, so... Well, the important thing, I guess, here, we look at who's still on the track at the moment, is that we are set to get our third race winner in 3 races, which is good for the series because it'll continue to spice it up a little bit. And in actual fact, I think we may have just... I'm just looking down the list to see who else we may have lost. So Glenn Miles is going to move up and take a few more points. Noah Tara up in 6th place at the moment, albeit he's still on the lead lap for his sake, but it'll also be his first points towards Pro-Am as well, which is a good thing in a learning experience season for him.
Having suffered connection issues the last couple of races, and I did notice in the midpoint of the race he was having some slight connection issues, and he was sort of strafing around a bit, but they seem to have stabilised for now.
Brendan Ross was still leading the race, but Ozrob was a full second almost, sorry, not full second, sorry, a full 2/10 quicker than Brendan Ross in that first sector, and he was a full 8/10 quicker than Jamie Snow. So that gap continues to get pegged, and with 8.5 minutes left on the clock. We're going to probably get at least 3 more laps after this one has been completed. So we'll get down to the line. We'll probably have about 6 minutes on the clock. Next tour we'll probably have about 2 minutes left, and then it'll be zeros halfway through the lap, and then we'll get one more. So are they all fueled to the finish? And has Ozrob left his run a little bit too late? And is Jamie Snow just going to follow his teammate home?
I think Ross has made a mistake there. Ross has made a mistake
yeah,
because
Ross,
that gap's come down.
He locked up into Indianapolis, but Ozrob is now, he's very close to them. He's
down to under 6 seconds now.
4.5 seconds. Yeah, it's 4.5 seconds to Jamie Snow, and this is the part of the track that the BMW excels in, so we can expect potentially a second to be knocked off here.
Yeah, well, Snow and Ozrob are virtually matching each other in that middle sector, and they were both a full 6/10 quicker than Brendan Ross, who, as you said, made that little mistake going down into Indianapolis. And he's now just pegged that gap out a little bit, Brendan Ross. He just needs to get his head down here and keep his eyes forward, because he doesn't... I don't know if he knows whether or not Jamie's just hanging back to have a little attack at some point, but the pair of them will know that from their own timing that they're being hunted, and that they may just have enough time up their sleeve, but stranger things have happened.
You're going to want to get a move on, because Ozrob looks like he's closed that gap even further in this final sector. But another thing that I want to touch upon is Phil Boak's probably pretty frustrated, as is Brenton Foley. I don't know how much testing they did, but looking at the lap times that Phil Boak's been doing, especially the last few laps, he'd be quite frustrated, obviously, getting the drive through and a couple of other mistakes that he's made, because he's quite quick, and if he hadn't made those mistakes, he'd be battling probably for a race win right now.
4 minute 1.1 for Brendan Ross, 4 minute 0.72 for Jamie Snow, 3 minute 58.1 for Ozrob. He is flying. That gap is now down to 3 seconds, 3.8 to the race leader. That is an insane...
2 seconds for the lead in the last sector alone.
An insane lap time this late in the race. That BMW is coming alive at precisely the right time. But as we keep saying, has he left his run too late? He's going to have 3 laps to hunt him down, and he can smell it. He can smell the exhaust fumes coming out of the tailpipes of that car now, because he's getting ever closer, and the closer he gets, the closer he's also getting to picking up that slipstream, which will drag him even quicker to the back of that car.
Well, I was saying Jamie Snow's sort of fallen out of Ross's slipstream a little bit here. He's a second and a half behind, which is not quite enough to really keep that, to keep that slipstream as well as you would like. We can see Boak in the background as well, but this is where Ozrob will struggle. But the thing is, he's been keeping it relatively even through the middle sector.
10.6 for Ross that time around, 11.6 for Snow, and an 11 dead for Ozrob. So he lost a little bit of time to Brendan Ross that time around, Ozrob, but he did gain time over Jamie Snow. And you are right, Bagsy. Jamie Snow has lost touch with Brendan Ross as Brendan Ross pinches a brake going down into the second chicane. And we are going to get probably this lap and 2 more. So it might be a bit of a stretch for Ozrob to snatch the victory away from Brendan Ross. He'd be relying on a mistake, but he's definitely still got an opportunity to split the FCR 1-2 up and take second place on the podium if he can get the job done. Up 2 places from where he started this race. So it's a solid drive in any case, but he'd definitely love one more.
He certainly would. It'll be... Well, he's kept it pretty even coming through the part where his car is disadvantaged. So we'll see how it goes. We're going through. It's really the Porsche curves is where he makes up so much time. It's actually unbelievable how much better that BMW is than the AMG Mercedes.
It's an interesting balancing act, this particular circuit, isn't it? Because you've got the long straights punctuated by some, the chicanes, plus you've got some of these turns like Arnage, Indianapolis, plus also the Porsche curves that require some downforce as well. So you've got to have a car that's balanced and will actually perform, I guess, well in all conditions. And it's not exactly an easy feat to achieve. As you can see, probably with Steve Bolger compared to Will Devonish, Bolger probably gone for a bit more straight line speed versus Devonish had probably gone for a bit more of a balanced approach. So he had something to fight with through this third sector. Whereas Ozrob's probably got more dialed in the middle here, in this final sector here.
He lost 9/10 to that.
Oh, he's wide too. He just manages to keep it off the off the gravel as well. So indicative of pushing hard.
there, but unfortunately that's going to cost him a chunk of the time that he would have normally gained through here.
Yeah, well, that's almost going to put pay to his challenge, I think, as we get down to at about 3 minutes remaining. We're going to cross the line.
He's pushing so hard.
Yeah, so he's really trying to make up time now. He just needs to continue to drive it straight. Meanwhile, Brennan Ross through the Ford chicane through what will be the third last time. And we'll get to the line. We'll have about 2 minutes 50 on the clock here, and then we'll get 2 more laps. So this one and one more. So this is the penultimate lap being commenced right now by the race leader. Does a 3:58.3, Snow 3:59.2, Ozrob at 3:59.4. So he lost time to both of them that time around. So he's fast running out of time here. He's got 2 more laps to peg Jamie Snow, but I think Brennan Ross is now a foregone conclusion, and he's just got to keep it on the road. Although that being said, they're both pinching brakes down here into the second part of the S's.
Yeah, I don't think we can count Ozrob out just yet. While he might not have the car speed, he might be pushing very hard. He is, you know, mistake could happen with one or both of these FCR cars.
Well,
Yeah, looking at obviously that last lap in particular, the middle sector, I think both Mercedes drivers just picked their pace up just a bit, and they were much faster in the middle sector in particular compared to what they've been doing the few laps previous. So I think they've sort of realised that we've got to pick our games up here, otherwise we might get beaten.
yeah, they were 9/10 quicker than Ozrob in the second sector on that previous lap as well. And then obviously Ozrob pushing in the final sector. He actually only gained 2/10 on them, but the 9/10 that they picked up in the middle sector was more than enough to compensate for the time that they lost elsewhere on that previous lap. In actual fact, they gained over him as well. So I got a funny feeling that Ozrob's challenge might be just falling away here a little bit, because Jamie Snow with the 10.2 that first sector, and Ozrob the 10.6. So I think you're right here, Lewis. They've just upped their pace a little bit just to make sure that they're protected from any potential challenge, and gives them a little insurance policy if they run a little bit deep at one of these corners or make a slight mistake without going off the circuit. They've got enough margin in hand to recover and retain position here.
Just look at the last lap as well. Looks like Phil Boak's made a mistake. He's dropped behind Bolger, and he's well behind. So he's 4 minute 36. 4 minute 36 for him, and Bolger at 4 minute 05. So both of them making a mistake.
And on top of that, you also got to remember that Lamborghini of Phil Boak did not, Steve Bolger did not take tyres on the previous stop either as well. So the 4 minute 5 is probably a little bit indicative of the amount of grip that Lamborghini has available to it, and just trying to bring it home. Yeah, Ozrob's definitely dropped a lot further back off the pace, off the back of these two now. And visually you can see it's more than the 3.7 seconds you see on your screen. And I think it's going to be down to the FCR2 for the win, but it looks like at this stage it's going to be Brennan Ross with the better part of a lap and a little bit to go. It's got quite a nice margin over Snow, and Ozrob now down to 4.1 seconds behind. So I think it's a Mercedes 1-2. Lights are on for Brennan Ross. He's coming up to lap Glenn Miles, which will put him an extra lap down as the clock has gone 0 now. So penultimate lap we are on, and we have one more remaining to close out this race. So not too much longer to go. Another 13.64 kilometres and change about to be commenced in about the next 30 seconds. And Glenn Miles smartly pulls off out of the way of these guys, and he'll probably have to stay there because Ozrob's coming through as well. He does.
Ozrob will rue that mistake he made. I think it was the last lap around, or 2 laps ago in that final sector there, and he's coming into the pits.
Ozrob's pitting.
So he's out of fuel, is he? He is too. Splash and dash, perhaps. Well, he's got margin, most importantly, over Steve Bolger, so he's going to retain his third place. Now, Brennan Ross, one more lap to go. 13.64 kilometres, 38 corners, and 4 minutes remaining in this race.
Well, let's hope that FCR have their boffins on the pit wall have been correct in their fuel strategy, because imagine if both of them run out of fuel on this lap and Ozrob takes it. Well, he's staying still for quite a long time, to be honest. There he goes.
With the amount of testing they did, I think they'll be fine. But yeah, Ozrob does come out in front of Steve Bolger, so the podium positions won't change. But yeah, rather odd. So I think Ozrob must have just not put enough fuel in at that pit stop, because there was certainly, when he did pit, you know, a full tank would have got him to the end. So he's obviously just not put enough fuel in.
Well, a little bit of an anticlimax to this race, I guess, but still, if Brendan Ross makes a mistake at all, Jamie Snow will be there to pounce. But
it's only half a second as well, so Jamie Snow's got a shot at a slipstream here.
Well, we'll see if there's team orders or not.
Well, we alluded to whether or not there would be team orders. Matt Williams will probably still be sitting in the team chat, despite the fact he's out of this race, and just making sure that they bring it home. He had 4 cars in this race, Matt Williams, and down to at least 2 of them will get home. And the point situation will be very, very interesting, because it'll put, actually probably go very close, I think, to putting Brendan Ross at almost to the top of the point standings, because there'll be a DNF for Philip Boak, a DNF for Brenton Foley, who was the points leader coming into tonight. A DNF for Greg Nangle, who was 3rd on the point standings coming into tonight. It was 3rd by 4 points. Lewis Wedding obviously having not taken part in tonight's proceedings due to the race ban for infringement at Monza, was sitting 2nd overall, 2 points adrift of Brenton Foley. The next man in the queue was Brendan Ross, the leader in Pro-Am, and if 25 points are on offer here, if my math is correct, he will be the new series leader after the European League today.
It would be a brilliant achievement if he has, because obviously coming in as Pro-Am.
You do get more points for these 2-hour leagues as well, so I do believe it's 30 points to win these 2-hour events, so you will get a bit of a bonus for that as well.
Well, we'll wait to see what happens there. They are...
He's driven flawlessly this race, basically. I think he's put a foot wrong once, when he might have put some extra fuel in and he might have locked a brake here and there that disadvantaged him, but apart from that, it's been an absolutely stellar drive, and he's had the outright pace over everyone. Yeah,
a couple of minor mistakes throughout the course of the evening's racing, or as the sun is setting here at Le Mans. And a beautiful sunset and a beautiful result, but Jamie Snow's not letting him have it his own way here. I dare say now there'll probably be team orders enforced just to cross the line in 1-2. But this man was finished 2nd at the Bathurst AMS Oz Bathurst 3-hour and was looking promising and threatening the leaders back then, but this one will be a very sweet moment for the young Queenslander, because he'll come down and take what is a very deserved victory in AMS Oz GT3. He hasn't realised that the final start-finish straight, but they've got, I think it's a formation finish here, and it is a formation finish as they coast up to the start-finish line. Brendan Ross, Jamie Snow, 1 and 2 for FCR, Mercedes and AMG, and a well-deserved chunk of points. And as we predict, it'll more than likely net him the overall lead in the GT3 World Challenge Championship.
Ozrob coming up to the line now.
He is coming to the line now.
3rd position. An excellent job considering he was in the wall and had severe damage only an hour ago.
And that's a good chunk of points for his championship challenge as well. He was down mid-table in the standings. So by virtue of the fact that Matt Williams and Will Devonish and co are not finishing the race, and the others that did not take part or did not see the checkered flag, he will be most pleased with that haul of points. Steve Bolger with a great 4th place and a good chunk of points in his Pro-Am Championship. Phil Boak recovers to 5th. Glenn Miles is lapped and down 6th place. And Noah Turra, believe it or not, even though he's still on the lead lap, he's still coming down the Mulsanne straight between the first and second chicane. So he's got a little while to go here. but going to net his first point, or his first points and first finish in GT3 World Challenge.
It's a good job from Noatara there. He's kept the car on the road, along with Glenn Miles. They both did an excellent job. Some drivers who are much more experienced and a fair bit faster, to be honest, did not make it to the end. And we mentioned at the top of the broadcast that it was one of those things where you can be as fast as you want. If you don't finish, it doesn't matter.
No, that's precisely right. Now, I'm assuming while we're waiting for Noatara to come down to the line and finish this lap, he's just down at Mulsanne at the moment, a number of the drivers will be looking for us to be interviewed, and we're actually off in another Discord channel at the moment due to the issues that we had over with the voice chat in the standard AMS Oz Discord channel. So hopefully those issues are resolved, and we will jump back there as soon as Noatara gets to the line. But it'll be interesting when discussion in the Tara household after this race is over, mainly because now out of the 3 races that the Taras have contested, son has now beaten father or son has seen the flag before the father has.
Yeah, well, it seems that it was technical gremlins last 2 rounds, and this time they've both had their own issues going off track, but Noatara has come out ahead and with a car that's damaged but going to make it to the line, whereas unfortunately for Greg Tara, he did not quite get there.
And this is the most important thing as well about any form of racing, is that you've just got to continue to get back out there and continue to rack up some points, and at the end of the day, the more points you have on the table, the better off your championship challenge is going to be. So no matter how insurmountable the odds might seem, get out there, keep your points haul ticking along. Doesn't matter if it's 5 points or 50 points. Every point counts towards ultimately what you're going towards at the end of the day. So it's good to see that 6th place will net him some good points. Now it's actually, the game is actually you didn't quite get to the flag there, but I think they will give him a points finish based off of that. So not a bad.
We might head over to the other Discord now so we can interview our podium place getters.
I'm sure we will do just that right now, because I believe that they are more than likely all waiting for us, and indeed they actually are waiting for us. So the voice issues that we had previously have actually been restored, which is a great thing to see. And Bagsy, where shall we start?
I think we've got to start with Brendan Ross, the race winner. Rossi, mate, that was a perfect drive from start to finish, I reckon, and I think most of the viewers will reckon as well. How did it feel in the car? You had challenges from Jamie Snow and Ozrob closing in on you quite fast at the end. How were you feeling?
Quite relieved to sort of get a win in this series. It was a little bit tough at the start of the race trying to get your eye in with the safety cars, but it sort of set us up really with the fuel issues that we could have had, but it was just a pretty smooth race right to the end. So me and Jamie were both managing it to the end, and it was just probably lucky that we were able to pull away from Rob on the straights to just give us that gap.
So was it sort of pre-organised fairly early on that after a certain point you and Jamie would stop racing, or were you racing up until the end then?
It was probably pretty much organised probably after the second safety car.
Fair enough. How'd you feel throughout the race? Obviously the first third of the race essentially was under safety car, but once it actually got going and there was a bit of tussle and stuff, and at one point in FCR 1, 2, 3. So how was the overall mood for the team?
Quite confident, I think. So it was probably a little bit disappointing that it didn't get the 1, 2, 3. Even the fought with Nangle, because Nangle was fast leading into practice. So it's probably just luck of my side of things that a lot of the stronger racers probably weren't here tonight to probably put a bit of a challenge on.
A win's still a win, and you didn't put a foot wrong, and it was very well deserved. Our second place getter, Jamie Snow. So we heard from Rossi before that it was pretty much set after the second round of pit stops, or the last round of pit stops there. How'd you feel for the rest of the race, though?
Yeah, look, I was fine. Basically, what we decided is like I did get in front of Rossi, but I knew he was quicker than me, so I sort of just said to him, "Look, go ahead. You know, if you're quicker, then you go. I'll try and hold on to the back of you and basically just run away with it from there." So, no, it definitely felt good.
How'd you feel with Ozrob breathing down your neck towards the end of the race there?
Wasn't too bad actually. It was more just about managing the gap. We knew we had a pretty big lead, and I had an inkling that Rob would have to pit again anyway. So it was just about managing that gap. We definitely could have been pushing a lot harder than we were, but we just wanted to play it safe and get to the end.
Fair enough. Well, there we go. It seems like the FCR team had this one in the bag from the start. Nether, I'll hand you over for Ozrob.
Well, Rob, you threw down the gauntlet right at the very end there. You had you're setting some really quick lap times compared to the guys in front, but maybe a slight miscalculation on the fuel strategy, perhaps maybe a couple of litres short right at the end there. You had to come in just with one lap to go.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, I think I forgot about the one lap after the zero, so the time ends. But no, it was a really good run. It was sweating big ones. I knew the Beamer was pretty quick through the Mulsanne curves, so I was catching up quite a bit through there. But obviously down the straights, it's not its biggest attribute, so I was getting swamped. So, but no, all in all, I'm pretty happy with third, considering that's not the Beamer's best track.
No, we're certainly right there. You did have quite a substantial margin in Sector 1 and Sector 3 when you were absolutely on it, hunting down the pair of Mercedes ahead of you, but they did seem to have you covered in the middle sector by probably about half second to a second. So some laps you were quicker than them overall, and then some laps you're a little bit further behind. The one thing I want to touch on as well is that the accident that brought out the second safety car. So there were couple of cars that ended up in the wall, and you seemed to just pancake the wall and get away probably the best out of the three of them, because the other two retired from the race pretty much on the spot. How much damage did you end up with, and how on earth did you manage to avoid a catastrophe?
I'd like to thank Automobilista for that, because I don't know, because I hit the wall and I kept going, and the car was fine, other than obviously it said it had damage, but as far as driving the car, it felt okay, but luckily it was a safety car, I guess. I came in and fixed it, so I guess I got away with that one.
You certainly did, and you were a very, very lucky boy not to wipe out Phil Boak along with it as well. But you take home a nice haul of points for third place and to close out the European leg, so job well done. Well, Bagsy, we're through 3 rounds. The European leg is behind us, and we look forward to Suzuka in a couple of weeks. A track that makes its return in GT competition. We haven't seen this track for about a year now, so it'll be a very welcome sight for a number of these drivers who love the circuit, and probably also for some of the guys that will be returning from serving their race suspensions as well.
Yeah, it's going to be nice to have a few more people back in the field, and yeah, it's going to be European leg is done and has been won by Brendan Ross, who we didn't really expect. I don't think anyone would have expected that at the start of this run, but he's done a very good job, and today has topped off a brilliant European leg.
Well, you're certainly right. It's a good finish, albeit a bit of an indifferent finish, especially with the safety cars involved tonight, but nonetheless, we are all done for not only tonight's race, but for the European leg of this GT3 World Challenge. So we'll see you in 2 weeks when we tackle the famous Suzuka circuit. But until then, as always, please drive safely, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.